I'm Lane.
And we are here for a third time with the glorious game, formerly known as Sims Nation, to talk to you about 11th edition. Sorry, once again, we are learning this live streaming stuff. I had a notification pop up on my phone that was yelling at me that it was going to cut off the stream, so I cut it off myself. So I apologize. We are 100% good to go. No more interruptions except for us interrupting ourselves.
Don't make any promises. We can't keep TJ.
Yeah, I know.
DJ's over here promising. Yeah, everything's perfect.
Yeah, that's just when everything goes wrong.
On the third restart, everything's great.
Right? Man. Okay.
Yeah. Anyways, we're going to be reviewing the rules that dropped today. The rules are a bit incomplete. We're going to go through what we do have and how that applies to our armies. We're not going to go through every single rule because that'll be boring. There are other channels that are doing that. We're going to go through the major changes that we notice and, like I said, how they apply to the armies that we actually play. So there's nothing about building armies in here and mustering your armies, and a lot of that has changed too. Maybe that'll come out later. Maybe that's part of the mission pack. The deck, maybe that's in those rules, or maybe they're just going to give us more rules at a later time. But yeah, let's get started. We'll
give a couple seconds for everyone to come back in who flopped over from the other one. I see a couple people are starting to come back in to it since, you know, I am the technical difficulty of this. I apologize. This is, like I said, this is the first time we did this. I did one live stream before, and it was just sitting around painting, chatting with some people. So it was whoever was on at that point. Now, we did plan to do this, but, you know, this is one of the things that's kind of tough with some of this is that we can't test it ahead of time. We can't go, okay, click this, and then this works here, this works here. So we're kind of just flying by the seat of our pants. You know, we'll be happy to take some suggestions on, hey, if you tried this, then you can transition this way. Right now we're operating, my phone is plugged up for us to record. I have a tablet here so I can see the chats and see what you guys are talking about and telling me that my mic is too hot. Thank you. I pulled that down a little bit so that hopefully it's not too loud now. Let us know what you guys are thinking. I did see some comments just before it. Definitely understand where you guys are coming from. Looking at what army to play right now into these rules, it's really tough. Like, I can't even tell you what I'm thinking is worth playing. Like, Tyranids, I've been loving a lot lately. World Eaters definitely seem good with their close combat options and stuff like that. So there is a lot of different styles and different factions. I'm very interested to see how a lot of them play out. Lane, you seem to not like some of the shooting threats as much right now.
Not like the shooting threats?
Not like the shooting armies, excuse me. Not like the shooting style list right now.
Well, from our first impressions when they started talking about everything, and it definitely from the rules they released at the time, it made it seem like melee army is going to be the way to go. And I think that's still going to be the case a lot, but they did buff the shooting in some ways. One of the main ways they buff shooting is that we found out that recently in the last few days here, we found out that you can touch terrain. And as long as you're touching it, it unlocks true line of sight. You don't have to be wholly within it to shoot through it. So if you can park your big old tank or vehicle or monster or even infantry models just touching the terrain, that unlocks true line of sight and they can shoot through it. So it does open up some visibility there. And we found out today in this rules drop, one of the first interesting things I noticed was in the vehicles and monsters section, vehicles and monsters can move over other models, both friendly and enemy models, excluding vehicles and monsters. Now, they're not quite sure if you can move over your own vehicles and monsters. We know you can't move over your opponent's vehicles and monsters, but you can move over opponents' enemy models like infantry, beasts, swarms, mounted, all those sorts of them. So that's going to be pretty interesting because there are a lot of strong play styles that are all about jailing you and move blocking you. And just being able to move over those guys that are trying to block your moves is going to be really strong. But it's still going to be kind of touch and go because engagement range is now 2 inches. So you still can't end an engagement range. But someone tries to block my land raider in my deployment zone, I can just drive over their scouts or their Votan. The Votan little guys, the guys that get out there, Jaegers. Someone can try and block me in my deployment zone with some scouting and infiltrating Jaegers. Well, now I can just drive over them with vehicles and monsters, so they can't do that. So that's going to unlock a lot of different play styles, really affecting those jail type armies, but also, again, there's still play to it. You still can't end within 2 inches of an enemy model, but being able to go over them is interesting. That's something I wasn't expecting to see, and we did see that today.
So you're saying Carnifex can't climb over another enemy Carnifex?
No, but Carnifex can climb over enemy infantry. So it can climb over some scouts, some space marines, whatever stuff you got on the table. It can just jump right over them. Doesn't mind.
No Carnifex open. I saw you were posting on before. Are we good? Everything's good on that side? How does it look on your end?
Yeah, it's coming through fine.
Yep. And you're seeing that. Everything's good there. And that's just people signed in. All right. Guys, let us know if you can hear us okay in the comments section real quick, just before we carry on. Don't want to, someone said before that my mic was a little hot. I want to make sure that we're at a good volume for you guys so it's easy to listen to. So please let us know in the comments real quick if everything sounds good before we get fully started into this all. You have this up, ready to go. Like I mentioned before, I have not digested a lot of this these rules per se.
Don't worry, DJ. I'm going to baby bird it for you. I'm going to digest these rules for you and then regurgitate them into your mouth. So you'll understand. Else we'll get that taken care of for you.
Hooray!
We're going to baby bird you with this information.
Yeah, because I mean, honestly, I've tried to. It was a lot going through. I know that you have gone through a bit of it so far. And yeah, you're seeing that. I'm not seeing the live chat.
Yeah, say volume is good. Sounds good. So
yep, I'm just trying to get the live chat.
We're gonna stop worrying about the technical stuff and just start talking to you. So
sounds like a plan.
Yeah, I think the vehicle and monster moving is interesting, especially for armies that are heavy on those. Like my Death Watch is mostly infantry, but anything that uses that, I think Votan is going to be in a good place in this edition. The more I'm kind of seeing what they can do, because when they obviously they can ignore cover after the Thunderkin. After the Thunderkin shoots something, you can ignore cover on that, which is going to help them quite a bit. But also, we saw in one of their detachments, they're going to be able to ignore cover with the strat, with one of their 1 CP detachments or 1 DP detachments with the Hernkin. So I think they're going to have a lot of play in far as ignoring cover.
For now, because we could see some changes here soon. We can only assume with the basic rules as they are right now, correct?
Well, that's what we came here to do today, is make assumptions. Based on the information we have. So, so as I said, the vehicle monster one was interesting. We found that, we're just going to go through it here, guys. So we're sorry we don't really have anything prepared. We're just going to talk it out.
Yeah, we're just going to go through the rule book, top to bottom. So if you guys want, if you have the PDF downloaded that came out today on the Warhammer community page, you can follow along with us on that. We're just going to kind of go over some things, read through it. I'll be giving my, because obviously I'm not as tuned into this. I know some of it is standard 40K, some of it's stuff that we've known for a long period of time. And some of it's some good changes, and some of it does feel like changes just for the sake of making changes. So let's see how it goes. All right.
It's definitely not addiction, it's addition syndrome. Where if we have a new addition, so we have to change some stuff. So as I'm scrolling through here, the next thing, you got the chat there.
Yeah, I do have the chat up here. It looks like we're queued up at the same point you are. Yeah, with T. Louie telling me, stop lying, a Carnifex isn't real. They've never actually been on the table. I think Lane can tell you Carnifexes are very real. They've definitely been on the table, and Old One Eye has helped make them beasts. I've
been distracted by many a Carnifex in my time. They're just such a juicy target. No, with the Old One Eye, they're really strong. Your full rerolls to hit is good, and especially on Old One Eye himself when he gets to the melee, he's been brutal. But yeah, Carnifex has caused some problems recently.
All right, so what do we got, Lane? What's up first?
All right, thanks so much for joining, guys. We see a lot of comments already. We'll try to kind of address a lot of those as we can. But first, we're going to talk about Battle Shock here. So Battle Shock has changed in a number of ways. So it's going to happen at the start of your command phase, and before you do any kind of scoring or before you can really use many of your command abilities. So it's going to be one of those first things that happens in your command phase.
The very, very start of the book, or the book.
The relevant stuff. Yeah.
Okay. Everything else is just the fluff piece.
Yeah. We're skipping past the what is an army. I'm just going to make the assumption that you guys are all high enough level to know what your army is.
Does it do the whole line of sight thing on how to judge line of sight with the little kid that's standing down here like this, going big old smile on his face? watching right through it. He's like, I have no idea what I'm doing right now. That's one of my favorite images. That's old school.
Yeah, no, we have the guy on here with the bad haircut. Playing the game here. Wait,
poor guy.
Yeah, we'll get to the important rules here in a second. We're just going to go to bad haircut first.
Bad haircut. Is that what we're looking at first?
Yeah.
What do we got? Oh, I think he just passed it. I saw an arm.
Perhaps.
I do like though that they did better job. Oh wow,
it's really bad.
Oh, that poor guy.
Oh,
he doesn't even know.
He just got a fresh cut just for this thing, and they did him dirty. Moving on to Battle Shock. So Battle Shock, now you have to take a Battle Shock test if you're below half strength, as it always been. But now if you're at half strength, it used to be in 10th edition, if you were like a 2 model units, you'd never really be below half strength. But now if you are at half strength, you have to take a Battle Shock. And you have to take a Battle Shock test if you were Battle Shocked in your previous turn. So you don't automatically unbattle shock anymore, which is going to be brutal for certain matchups. I know, especially, I mean, the biggest example is Tyranids, Shadows from the Warp.
Well, what was that D3 above it? Was that just explaining what a D3 is and a D6 is?
Yes. Yeah.
It's hilarious when you look at the rulebook and you're like, all right, I got this big rulebook to digest. And then you realize that like this rule book, and it's really like this many rules. And then there's a ton of the rules that are like that. A D6 is, I know they need to include it because new players, but it still makes me giggle. All right. Shadows of the Warp.
So yeah, Shadows of the Warp obviously makes your opponent take a Battle Shock on any unit that's on the board. But now if they fail that Battle Shock, they're still going to have to test for Battle Shock in their next command phase to unbattle shock. You have to cure yourself of the battle shock by successfully passing a leadership test, and that's going to have a huge effect on the game. I don't know if they're going to make an adjustment to Tyranids or what, but that rule is going to be super powerful, because if you take a battle shock in your whole army and half of them fail, and then the next turn you still have to take battle shocks to unbattle shock yourself. So you got to take the leadership test. It's going to be pretty brutal. Like getting out of battle shock is going to be difficult. For units that aren't even below half strength. So,
Mono Curon, I want to just comment real quick. So we're going to talk about that when we get over the assault thing on it. I feel like that is in here. It's a little bit different with it on the fight first and not fight first things, because as we know it right now, currently, basically fighting in general is the defensive player's option in all scenarios, even if you make the charge. When you make the charge, the defensive player still selects any unit with fight first. Now it's been switched over to the offensive player. So as it looks right now, that's going to be both scenarios. So heroic intervention, even though it doesn't count as fight first thing, that's because it's not relevant to it now, because the fight first, the person who's going to do that fight first charge is going to be the person who, the active player as it is. Now, does that mean you get to alternate back and forth with it? We'll get more over that and talk about that more in detail when we get over to the charge step of it. But one thing to keep in mind is with that rule specifically is that now the fight phase has changed. Now it's more the offensive player has more control. The active player has more control, as they are declared as the player who moved in that aspect. So we'll get over that in a minute. Sorry about that, Lane.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no problem. So if you get battle shocked by any kind of weapon or ability that battle shocks a unit that's not at or below half strength, now you're still going to have to test to get out of it in your next command phase. In addition to that, when you're battle shocked, your OC is no longer OC 0, it's OC dash. So if you have an ability that gives you extra OC, like a Space Marine Ancient attached to a unit that gives you extra OC. In 10th edition, if you were battle shocked and take you to OC 0, the Ancient would add OC 1. So you'd still have OC to control objectives. But now it just goes to a dash. So there's no OC, and that can't be modified. So it seems like unless they change the wording and the rules on the Ancient, as it is right now, we won't know. Now, they're going to release the data sheet for the Ancient at some point this week, so maybe we'll find out more about that. But until then, it looks like if you're battle shocked, there's no way to fix the OC.
That might have been intentional that you weren't supposed to do it, but I kind of liked the fact that if your unit had a banner, even if it was battle shocked, you still got that +1 OC, which was really just it added a different layer of nature, especially to the more elite armies that have more, because you don't see a banner in a squad of guardsmen per se. You see a banner in larger Marine squads, Grey Knight Terminators, Paladins, different Custody units have that. And then you have the character banners, like you mentioned, in Blood Angels that can attach to these units. So I thought that was really nice and kind of thematic and kind of a way that, like, you're still battle shocked, you're still reduced in OC. And especially with this and larger objectives, that math is going to matter more. So that's kind of disappointing if that is gone completely, because I liked how that acted into it. But the fact of you having to unbattle shock, I love that. Yes, it is going to be totally broken for things like Tyranids, where it's like, hi, I'm going to make your entire army battle shock. That's probably going to need to be tweaked a bit. But other more fair aspects, things like the Psychomancer, which I've already been running and love, this just adds another extra layer to it. It does make sense for a fact of you're like terrified. You're like, I'm scared. Wait, I'm not scared because I have a friend. I mean, is this a Will Smith hold me moment here that it's just like you look at your buddy next to you and go, oh, just hold me. I'm not scared of you. And then you're back to being okay. No, you need to test that.
Space Marines, they rely on their brothers. Yeah, that makes them feel good. There's a lot of brotherhood there.
If you're running from a giant Tyranid that's chasing you, you may not be looking back to see who's still alive in your squad.
I mean, it's not as bad as old leadership situations where you just run off the board if you failed your leadership test back in the good old days. But it's difficult. I don't really like this change because you can't really do anything about it. There are very few ways you can unbattle shock a unit, especially because the Insane Bravery strat is still there, but you can't use it on an already battle shocked unit. So you can't use that to unbattle shock a battle shock unit.
No. However, as Darjeka just mentioned it here, I'm going to throw. Sorry if I butcher your guys' names. I apologize. I really do. I'm going to do my absolute best. But Dark Ja makes a comment in here and saying the banner might heal battle shock. There are a lot of units right now that do that. The Necron Prince Royal Warden, he can unbattle shock a unit, and some of those units have really, really awkward timing for when they do that stuff. Now I think there's going to be a little bit more value behind those units where they're going to be able to go, oh, look, I'm going to, okay, that's battle shock. Now it's unbattle shock you and continue out the turn. If a unit doesn't need to necessarily hold an objective right now, but at the end of the turn you do, some of those awkward timings are going to be more valuable, and some of those units might actually see a little bit more love.
Yeah, I think they're going to be really important. I don't think there are that many of them in the game. You know, it's like the new Commissar Graves model. She can unbattle shock something.
Gee, it's almost like they thought new 11th edition was coming.
Yeah, she's ready for that. She can only unbattle shock multi-model units because you have to kill one to unbattle shock. But that and like Space Marine chaplains, regular on-foot chaplains, once per game, they can unbattle shock a unit. That's going to get a lot more important now that we've seen what these battle shock changes are going to be. Like I said, I don't like it because once you're battle shock, there's nothing you can do about it, really. There's no interaction at that point other than a couple spare rules. Like you can't affect your dice rolls or anything along those lines. It may be interesting for Ultramarine players because one of Gilliman's abilities buffs your leadership and your OC, which is something that people never take. They always just take the the extra Oath of Moment and the free strat one of his abilities. But his third ability affects your leadership. So if you do have a situation where your Ultramarines playing against Tyranids, you've got to take that. You've got to take the Shadows of the Warp battle shock test. You might actually use
Grimnars and Votan.
Yeah, you might actually use the improvement to the leadership aura for Gilliman. So it'll be interesting if people actually start using his third ability that everyone forgets about.
Really good point here too. Blood Angels, when they're trying to boost off of being battle shocked and not necessarily you're already battle shocked, you're like, cool, now I'm already. But then you can't target them with the stratagems.
Well, they've already. I think they're adjusting that because one of the Blood Angel detachments. It had a strat where it was a one or the other. If you do both, you take mortal wounds instead of being battle shocked because you're not going to voluntarily battle shock anymore unless you're absolutely desperate for something because you don't automatically unbattle shock. So I think they're going to adjust certain things like that. The Blood Angels, I think in that one detachment they released, I forget the name of it, but they had one of those strats that uses one or the other, and they just made it so if you use both, you take mortal wounds, not a battle shock. So I'm assuming they're going to adjust that for anything because there's no way you're going to voluntarily battle shock now.
And I agree, like I said, there is a ton of 10th edition rules that are going to need to be fixed, reworded, and stuff like that. I mean, right now, if you go and pick up I'd say the Tyranid Codex is probably the biggest culprit of it. If you pick up the Tyranid Codex and we're trying to play 10th edition with it as it is right now, it's the erratas and FAQs to that thing it's not even a book anymore. I'm sure there's probably one that's worse than it, but I've just noticed that with Tyranids.
The first codex is that, and Space Marines is the first codex is the 10th edition, so a lot's changed since then. So,
all right, let's scoot on a bit. Battle shock is a big part of the game. Like, this is going to be a big component of the game moving forward.
It's going to be a lot more relevant.
Yeah, you're going to hear us talk about that quite a bit throughout a bunch of things into this. But that's a pretty massive change. I liked Battle Shock in the 10th edition where leadership wasn't as relevant before. It was either too brutal and could cost you a game, completely irrelevant and didn't matter in the times of and they shall know no fear and fearless just being all over the place. I thought it was a good thing that it now mattered for the game. So the question is simply going to be, where do some of these abilities that we see right now, I think a big one, I think you're right with Shadows of the Warp being the biggest one, needs to probably get reworded in some way. Maybe it has to be enemy units that are within range of Tyranid models. Those are the ones that take Battle Shock or something like that. It's gonna be interesting, definitely. All right, so what are we moving to next? Moving a model in a straight line. This is important. So when you're moving a model, make sure that you're measuring. If you're measuring from the front of the base, you move it to the front of the base. If you measure from the back of the base, you move it to the back of the base. Models don't move from the front of the base to the back of the base. That's cheating.
It actually says that in here. When moving, it says move it from the same point on the model. So you can't.
Very important factor. It's in the rule book.
Another important thing is rotating a model. Pivoting now does not cost any movement, so you're free to pivot at your leisure. Now, certain things like people are trying to get goofy with bringing in something like a Doomsday Arc or a Raider, a Dark Eldar Raider, and bringing it in from reserve, and then charging with it and doing a pivot when you charge. But now you still have to roll for the charges. You still have to roll the distance. So if you're 9 inches away, you're 9.1 inches away. You still have to roll a 10 to make the charge. So the pivot, I don't think really helps charges, but it's going to help moving vehicles and monsters around. Again, when we were concerned about everything being...
Explain that again. I'm a little confused on that. So you're saying you bring a Raider in from reserve? Is what you said?
No. When they introduced pivoting in 10th edition, it was immediately broken because someone can bring in a Raider from reserve and have it horizontal, and they pay the 2 inches to pivot, and it'll give them an extra like 2 inches of movement in the charge. So their 9-inch charge coming from reserve would suddenly be a 7-inch charge. That doesn't really apply to this because you still have to roll the successful distance even before doing any pivoting. It might help with getting a little extra movement here and there, but it's not going to really affect charge rolls. But again, we're concerned about fast melee armies getting all the buffs in this edition. This is a good buff for your vehicles, just being able to move and pivot without worrying about any paying any extra movement for you. So you're still going to get that movement. And that combined with just being able to touch terrain and shoot through it is going to make your vehicles going to have a lot more mobility and ability to get eyes on targets, which is what you want to do with them.
Yeah, that's true. They could comment Dark Jaw again. Yeah, they could just, as we see codexes come out, they could just end up removing 2 inches from the movement on these things, and it's not relevant in that aspect of it. I personally like just the -2. -2 does the pivot. I think the biggest reason that they changed it is because of what we see with fly models, which we'll talk about a little bit later. And it's like they just didn't. I don't think they wanted to make it. Ooh, these aren't the same. So here we're going to pivot it. And it's just going to be a matter of watching to make sure that it's spinning on that axis, because there's some models that are weird shaped, and whether you intend to or not, that's still going to be a difficult thing to do because there's not an exact point to be able to go, oh, this is the center of the model. It's still going to be difficult and kind of eye judging, especially with tanks that have waves to them as well. So it's still going to be rough. I liked the whole subtract 2 from the move better and just
too bad you can't have it. It's gone.
I know. I can't. We can't have nice things, can we? All right. So, but that was it for the movement. Nothing else special and nothing else in there. Even stuff that we already know, because there might be some people coming in for their first time. So, was there anything else in there, or is this moving on just to the next thing?
We're just going to hit the major changes because we're not going to read through every rule.
I want to read through every rule and the
You can do that on your own time.
I don't have my own time. Okay. This is my own time.
Coherency has changed a bit. So when I would play my my all Kroot list, the Kroot Firestalkers, the infiltrating unit, was a 12 model unit. And you could attach the character to that, and they can infiltrate. And then you could win if you win the roll off for deploying first. I could drop a 13 model unit stretched all the way across the front of my opponent's deployment zone, of course 9 inches away, but still blocking them from doing any infiltrating, that sort of thing. And then with a redeploy, I could scooch them back. Now that kind of move blocking and stringing out your units is gone. You still can do it some, but now with coherency, you have to be within 2 inches of at least one other model in your unit, and 5 inches vertically. So some models can be up on higher levels of terrain while other models are down. And they also have to be 9 inches horizontally from every other model unit, every model in the unit.
Mhm.
So 2 inches from another model, and the whole unit can't be more than 9 inches away from each other. Now that's not wholly within 9 inches, so you get a little bit extra distance out of that. But they just have to be within 9 inches. Now it does. Some people have already pointed out that technically a unit that has 2 guys here and 2 guys over here is still in coherency because they're within 9 inches and each one is within 2 inches of another model. I'm sure they're going to clarify that it still has to be a chain of guys. That'll be a lot of fun if they don't, because then you have 2 separate units that are 1 unit. Because
then as soon as one dude's destroyed, now you're removing another one for coherency.
Yeah.
But hey, I mean, then you're turning a 5-man squad, which is a more common number, into a 9-inch wide bubble of zone out.
Yeah. So I'm sure they're going to correct that, but it does kind of simplify things a little bit. That means you're still going to have a use for your 9-inch widgets, because your 9-inch measuring sticks, with Deep Strike being at 8 inches, you're going to have to get some 8-inch widgets, but you'll still have a use for your 9-inch widgets, and especially that's going to be just holding it over that unit to make sure everybody's within 9 inches. So let's see. Engagement range is 2 inches. That is 2 inches horizontally or 5 inches vertically. That's going to be a big deal.
Upset about the updates to agents, because there's only one update that agents need that I will be very happy about, and that's when they get a completely new book, because there's no way you can update that book and make it functional. Nope. They need an overhaul. All right.
Yeah, I don't think GW cares about agents at all. Okay, here's the thing with agents. When the Agents Codex came out, GW acted like it was going to be a major faction because they released 3 launch boxes with it. Do you remember that? They had a launch box with the Codex for each of the 3 branches of the Inquisition. Yeah. So they had one that was, the Xenos, Order Xenos, the Death Watch and everything. They had one that was Hereticus, and one was Malleus. So it was the only Codex that came with 3 separate Codex launch boxes. But the rules are terrible, and so you can still find those launch boxes on store shelves because nobody wanted to buy them. But they should have made it seem like it was going to be a major real codex.
Maybe I can pick one of those up on discount just to get it off a shelf. All right, so now we're looking at engagements.
Yeah, engagement. Obviously, for the fight phase itself, this is a big deal because there's no more one model and touching and base to base and another model touching that base, and you fight through each other. Now it's just 2 inches. Anybody who gets within 2 inches of the enemy model can fight. We'll talk about that more when we get to the fight phase, but it's going to be very relevant for the movement phase because you still can't end with an engagement range of another model. And that really means that a model, a unit that was, say you had a tank that's 6 inches long, you couldn't get within an inch on either side. So that was 8 inches. Now it's going to be 10 inches because it's 2 inches on either side. So really it's going to be move blocking a lot more. We're going to see some interesting situations where one unit will be here, another unit will be here, because you can't get within 2 inches of either one of those. It's going to block out a big chunk of movement for our larger units.
The biggest thing with this is going to be how it is going to affect the charges in the fight phase, like Lane had mentioned, when we get over into those rules. Because right now with it, we're looking at you need to be within 1 inch to be engagement range. So, and now with it being 2 inches, there's a couple things with like walls and stuff like that, where we used to put units there and go, okay, I'm 1.1 inch away from the wall. You can't declare a charge on me, so now I need to go around. That's not going to be a thing anymore. But what it then comes into, it's like, oh, okay, so now I'm 8 inches away. So what? I'm 8 inches away, so I need 6 on the dice to charge you. And the answer is no. That is not going to be the case to actually stick the charge, because you're still going to need to stick that 8. We're going to get into all that stuff later when we get into the charge phase, but I want to kind of touch on that right now to keep that in mind, because one of the things with Warhammer and how complicated this game is that some rules that seem mild and not really super big change and relevant become very important later on when we start to get over into the fight phase and the charge phase, which probably is the biggest overhaul. That's one that I'm still struggling to digest and probably need to throw some models on the table to see, because it seems like that is just so many movement and so many motions into that. So yeah, I am looking forward to it. It looks exciting, but it's gonna be something. All right, what we got next?
Let's make some attacks. I think it's attacking time.
It's attacking time.
So they kind of smushed the making attacks, both the shooting and fighting, into one section because GW loves smushing stuff together when it should be separate. But when shooting, you can select one or more ranged weapons that a model has. When you fight in melee, you can select one melee weapon unless you have an extra attack ability.
Oh, that's actually okay. So yeah, that's how that was. Yeah, so that's all been the same. None of that changed. Because then there's rules with it, like pistols and stuff like that, that specifically say you cannot fire this with another weapon. So
it's nice that they specifically say some things, especially if you're shooting. You maybe don't want to shoot with some of your weapons, so you don't have to shoot with all of them.
Okay, yeah.
Let's see here. So when you're shooting, you select a unit, a target that's visible. Sure. They have to be within range of the weapon and visible.
And it just says unengaged. So it just says unengaged. So at this point in time, you cannot shoot at units in combat. More on that in a little bit. And I mean at this point in time of us discussing the rules, because big guns never tire. That's there, but it changed, has it not? Some of that stuff has kind of changed a little bit.
Not a lot. It's still pretty much the same for vehicles and monsters. The only thing that's different is that heavy weapons, you don't get your heavy bonus if you're in engagement.
Okay.
So if a vehicle has a heavy weapon on it and it's engagement range with a model, it can still shoot, but it doesn't get the heavy bonus anymore. So I don't know if that was specifically the 10th edition, but in 10th edition, if I had a heavy weapon on a vehicle and it was engagement range, I always gave myself the heavy bonus. But that is something that they explicitly stated here. I really want to get to this wound allocation, save allocation business here. So we're going to resolve the attacks. All right. Select the enemy unit. First thing you do is select the enemy unit. Cool, I'm going to shoot it something. You're going to gather your attack dice. You pick one weapon that is targeting that unit. So say you have, well, let's say that you have a Doomsday Arc, DJ. Mm-hmm. And what are its two guns? It's got the Doomsday Cannon. Is that what it's called?
Sure, it's Doomsday Cannon.
And then what are the little guns called?
Gauze Flare Array.
Gauze Flare Array.
Which is technically two guns only. It's two guns, one on the left, one on the right.
Yeah. For the purposes of shooting, even though it's two different weapons, it's considered one gun because you shoot with all the same profile. Even if they have different names, if it's all strength 4, AP01 damage, it doesn't have any other special rules applying to it, you just roll all those attacks at the same time. So so we'll use the example, you're using your DDA to shoot at me. So you pick one weapon to start with. So let's say you pick the Gauze Flare Array.
Yep. So we can still play these. So this is where we can still play some of the games that we're currently playing, which is pretty much the same. This part of it is slightly still the same as what we've seen before, where you can select that one weapon. So Lane's got a Space Marine on one wound.
Well, what we're going to do is we're going to say that he's shooting at a Decimus Kill Team, which is a Death Watch unit. It's a new Death Watch unit. And you can have up to 3 different defensive profiles in that squad, not even counting characters or anything. Because you can take 2 guys, say I'm going to do a 10-man Decimus Kill Team. I'm going to have 2 of the guys have Storm Shields. 2 of the guys, of course, will be Gravis Marines that have 3 wounds apiece. And the other 6 guys will be Marines that have 3 up armor and 2 wounds apiece. So this is kind of relevant. There aren't that many units that have multiple defensive profiles on the same unit.
But this is relevant in here, yes. As we've soon found out.
There are ways you can add non-characters to units, like with Necrons, you can add Crypto Thralls, right? And they have a different defensive profile.
Slightly. Yeah, slightly for the Necron Warriors, where Warriors are a 4-up save. The Thralls have a 3-up save, which is kind of what we're going into more so with the
Yeah.
relevancy of these attacks.
But when they're talking about the defensive profile, they do mean any differences. So not just the armor save. So the save can be different. The number of wounds they have can be different. The feel no pain can be different.
Yeah.
So, you know, for example, in that Decimus kill team, there are 2 Marines that are Gravis Armor Marines that have 3 wounds apiece. So that's a separate allocation group from the guys that are 3-up armor that have 2 wounds apiece. So that's what makes it a separate group. So anyways, so you select one weapon you're going to target, and then you gather all your attack dice and you roll those attacks.
Yep. So I'm going to shoot with my Doomsday Arc. I got 5 attacks, and I hit you 5. I hit you 5 times.
So first of all, you got to declare what weapon you're going to shoot at. Are you
so I'm going to shoot you with the Doomsday Arc, the cannon, the Doomsday Cannon.
No, the big dumb gun.
Yep. So this is a flat 4 damage gun. AP 3, I believe, offhand.
Okay. I feel like it's AP4, maybe.
Maybe it might have been.
And anyways, so you're going to shoot me with that. So
I know the Doomstalker is AP3. We'll switch it over to a Doomstalker because he's still got little Gauss Flare fingers. So
okay.
Cool. He's AP3. I got 5 shots on you. Mm-hmm. All right. So I'm going to pick up 5 dice. I'm going to roll to hit. And I roll 5 dice and I hit you 4 times. Now we're going to go over to wound. I roll the wound. Man, I'm rolling hot. I've wounded you 4 times. Now what are we doing, Lane? So now you're going to go make saves on these dice. So are you going to pick those dice up and roll 2 of them for your 4-up invulns? Oh, I know the answer for this already. Just waiting for Lane to catch up. So you create the groups. You divide all models in that. Oh, you did it.
Yeah, he's just acting like he knows what he's talking about. He's like, just reading off the screen.
I do know.
Oh wait, you moved it away. So yeah, essentially the sequencing here is you choose the weapon, you roll your hits, you roll your wounds, and then when you show me the number of wounds you got from that weapon, then I decide which profile I'm going to take it on. So what did you do?
No, you picked it after you rolled it. So you actually roll the dice, and you're going to roll all those dice, and then you assign each one of them, which is the big change that we heard in this. So go ahead and look through that real quick. But as far as what we've seen, allocating order, declare the order in which those groups will have attacks allocated to them, applying all of the following. Divide all the models in the target unit in that group.
Yeah, so no, after you've done the wound roll, then I choose which groups are going to take them before I make the save rolls.
Oh, did they just screw that up in the video that I was watching before?
Probably. It seems like some of the stuff from the games that they previewed last week, there were some mistakes made because the sequence is
up a little bit for a second.
The sequence is hit rolls.
Right, hit rolls,
wound rolls.
Yep, and that's the same.
Save rolls. The first step is to create your groups.
Create the groups. Divide all models in the target unit into the following groups as many times as required. 1 group for each character model. 1 group for all models with the same wound, save, and invulnerable save characteristic. Allocation order. Declare the order in which those groups will have attacks allocated to them, applying all the following. If a non-character group contains a model that has lost 1 or more wounds, that group must be first in allocation order. No character group can be allocated, so that's the same. Character groups containing a model that has lost 1 or more wounds must be earlier in the allocation order than characters. And that's just characters themselves. That's just if you have multiple characters in that unit.
Yeah, so basically I separate. So I'm going to use this Decimus kill team as an example, and we're going to assume at this point it's fresh. It hasn't taken any damage. So I have 2 guys that have 4-up invuln saves. I have 2 guys that are 3 wound models, and I have 6 guys that are 2 wound models and 3-up saves. So you have fired your high AP thing first. Before I make any save rolls, I'm going to declare that I'm going to take these on the guys with the invuln save. So I'll take those first.
Okay.
So if I do that, then you say you got 5 wounds on me?
Yeah, is it 4 wounds? 4 wounds. Yeah.
4 wounds. Okay. So then I roll my save dice and I go in the order that I declared beforehand. So let's say I fail 1 and make 3. That means 1 of the invuln saves shields will be dead, and then the other guy tanks 3 of those shots, and the rest of the squad doesn't take any additional damage. So what my question was after hearing all this is essentially after DJ has done that attack with the high AP, high damage weapon, then you're going to shoot with your little weapons.
Yeah.
It's a whole new attack sequence. So as long as nothing in that unit has taken wounds, or is wounded, I can restructure that.
Yeah, it looks like it. That
So,
definitely 100% looks like
yeah, so now he shoots with the little Gauss flares.
Or if
It
there's
rolls
no
your hits, rolls your wounds, and now I'm going to say, okay, now I'm going to take it on the 3-up armor, no involve guys, because I still have an involve guy left. He hasn't taken any damage. And if we did that a different direction, if you did that a different order, if you shot with the Gauss flares first, and I said, okay, I'm going to take this on guys with no embalm, and let's say I failed one and passed one. You got me 2 wounds on me. I failed one and passed one. I get taking a guy with 1 wound. Then you shoot with the high AP weapon. Well, because I have a guy in that unit that's wounded, I have to take it on his group, not just his model, but I have to select all the models with the same defensive profile as him, and they will go first. So then your high AP stuff will just cut through the guys with no embalm saves. I can't pick the one. I can't kill. It's not like currently in 10th edition where we roll the saves one at a time, essentially, and decide on each save roll who we're putting it on. Yeah, if there's a guy damaged, it has to go on that group first, that similar defensive profile. So
yeah, this is not even saying anything about the fast dice. This is saying this straight. This basically is the opposing player, because right up, the opposing player makes 1 save roll for each attack that wounded the target. So it's still the single dice. Yeah, I mean, I watched the GW preview, and they were talking a lot about the fact of being able to have the orc. What's his name? Makari, and where you just roll all the dice, and then you take the 1s, 2s out or the 1s out to take out your regular orcs, and then he gives a 2-up involve, so he just tanks all the rest, and that seemed kind of ridiculous. And it just
yeah, I think Makari's a character, so you wouldn't be able to choose him first.
Probably, sure.
I mean, in a normal attack sequence, the 1s and 2s would all kill a bunch of orc boys. Once you got through that, then Makari's just going to tank all the rest of the damage because he's got a 2-up involve, assuming there's a couple orcs on there that gobbled up the first couple of 1s you roll. So it is going to make characters at the end of the sequence more durable. But yeah, I think it's going to cause some interesting interactions, because if you shot me first with the Gauss flares and it killed 1 guy, but did no additional wounds to the other guys, then you shot with the high AP thing, then I could switch up and do the involve saves because there's nobody wounded in the group. So,
but if I shot with the Gauss flares first and did 1 damage to your 3 wound guys, and now I switch over to it, you're going to be forced to stay in that allocation group.
Yep, I'm going to have to reorder. Say, okay, well, you're going to take it on the 3 wound guys, and then I'll go on the involve.
And you're going to be forced to, because he's going to have damage on him.
Yeah. So for the attacking player, especially because I know so many Space Marine tanks have like 6 different guns on them, it's going to choosing that order is going to be relevant. But this is really only going to come up when you have those mixed durability units, which there aren't a ton of them. But I mean, if you're playing against Ultramarines and they got the Wardens of Ultramar is a 6 model unit that has 4 different defensive profiles in it. So it will be there'll be some interesting shenanigans to do with that. Like I said, most of the time, a unit has all the same defensive profile, and until you get to the character. But it's going to cause some interesting interactions. Definitely something to be. I would definitely recommend anyone when you're first playing your games, try and play with some units that have these multiple saves, just so you can get the practice of choosing targets and choosing who you take them on. They'll be choosing what weapons you fire and what order is going to be huge for the attacking player, and of course, choosing the order of those defensive profiles is going to be good for the defending player.
That is crazy. That is crazy because it was in my head so much. I was like, "Wow, this is what we're doing. We're just fast rolling the dice into it." And I started looking. I was like, "Well, it's not too bad. It kind of gives like some of your shields a little bit more value behind it." So but seeing that now, I guess that was not stated correctly. Working the lowest results to the highest results until all attacks are resolved on or all models in the unit have been destroyed.
Yeah,
that's such a weird way to word that too. The opposing player resolves the following sequence for each save roll. So you roll it from lowest result.
You roll all
to
the
highest.
save dice. Yeah, so and then you put them in order: 1s, 2s, 3s, 4s, 5s.
Okay, so there might be some things you could do with that. Okay, so there is some things you could technically, I guess, do with that, where you could, if you had a small group of something that's weaker, something that you want to take the fodder, they could take some of the 1s and 2s first, removing them, And then the ones that you have left that are 3s and 4s would go to the next allocation group already, and then they're going to take the 3s. So in some ways, you're not going to burn your 3s and 4s failing it on something that has a 5-up save. So you can still, the employees resolve the sequence saving rolls from lowest result to highest. So you do roll them all at the same time, even though it says up here the opposing player makes one save roll for each attack. No, yeah, so you could pick them all up. Yeah, you can pick them all up and roll them. So that could be. I think that's wow. That's going to take some time to get through that.
Yeah, and again, most of the time you're shooting a unit that just has a character attached, and then has the bodyguard unit has all the same defensive profiles. So that's it's going to be there. So it's not going to matter that much, but there are enough units to have these multiple defensive profiles that you're going to be aware of it, and it's not always going to be an easy decision which weapon you fire first, which weapon you fire second. Like I can have a Land Raider that's got a multi-melta, a hunter killer missile, a storm bolter, and blast cannons on it. And so choosing the order in which they go into a multi-defensive profile target, it's not always going to be obvious. The same thing as when you're taking damage; it's not always going to be obvious. So,
yeah, I think that a little over in the chat as I'm punching terrain. Dark Jaw, like, yeah, I think that's kind of where my mind was going to in this sense. Like, okay, hold on, but yes, you can knock out some of the lower saves first in that grouping, so that your 3-up armor is going to be able to tank some of that stuff. So there is going to be a little bit of trickiness to it. So yeah, that's going to take some time to figure that one out and see how that all maths out. Not a lot of units, like you said, there's not a lot of units that really take that into consideration, because some of the bodyguard units are, they're like the crypt thralls. There's 2 of them, so things like the kill teams that you mentioned that have like 3 move models on it, that could be very interesting, but we'll have to see how it plays out with some other groupings in there too. But yeah, there is a little bit of interesting play with that.
Change to invuln saves. If you have an invuln save, you must use it. So there are certain, it's really a niche case, but there are some units where you would want to take the armor save sometimes instead of the invuln save. Apparently the way the words are ruled now, or the way the rules are worded now, and invuln saves, if you have one, you have to take it. You have to use it if it's available to you.
So you can't just choose not to and destroy your dudes?
Yeah, there were times like on a Drukari have the Archon or whatever that has a 2-up invuln until he fails it. Times that if you put a few Stormbolter shots into them, they would take it on the armor save. So because the first time they fail one of those 2-up invulns, the invuln goes away.
Okay, gotcha.
So they would take low damage scattered plinky shots in the regular armor so they wouldn't roll 1. But now if you've got the invuln save, you have to use it if you have it.
Gotcha. Yeah, equal to or greater to characteristic. Yep. So it really calls that out there. Oh man, there's that given. Now we got some graphs here talking about all the stuff making attacks, attacking attached units. And that's some stuff to see and definitely go over on your own and just double check and see what everything is. But okay, line of sight is used to determine visibility. Blah 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 blah. Fully visible. Other models and units can either be visible or fully visible. Okay, I know there's some change with visibility. I don't think this is it. I think it's talking about the terrain. And then we got mortal wounds.
Yeah, mortal wounds happen at the end of the sequence for the attacking weapon. So, for example, if I have a Land Raider that's got a Gatling cannon, a twin-length assault cannon on there, and some other weapons, the dev wounds happen at the end of the assault cannon sequence, not the whole vehicle sequence. So, yeah. Let's see here. Hazardous rolls. Hazardous rolls have changed quite a bit.
So the mortal wounds stay the same, yeah.
Hazard rolls have changed quite a bit. So when you have to take a hazard roll, and they've included things like Desperate Breakout as being a hazard roll now, so they can consolidate more of the rolls you have to take into the hazard roll. But make a hazard roll, you roll a d6 on a 1 or 2. A unit suffers 1 mortal wound. If it's a vehicle or monster, it takes 3. So this is good for infantry that are not 1 wound. It's bad for monsters and vehicles because they're more likely to take 3 mortal wounds when they have a hazardous weapon. So, yeah, it doesn't really change a lot for one wound models, other than it gets worse now because they're more likely to fail. If you have 10 one wound models that have hazardous weapons, one third of them will die on the hazardous roll because it's on a 1 or 2. 2 wound models, it's about the same because it's going to take 2 fails. So
but it's only 1 wound.
It's only 1 wound. So like Hellblasters, in order for them to die, for one Space Marine Hellblaster to die, they have to fail 2 hazard rolls. So on 2, so the math is the same. But on 3 wound infantry or 4 wound infantry, it gets better. For example, Inceptors, Plasma Inceptors. In order for one Plasma Inceptor to die from in a 6-man squad from the overcharge, you have to roll 3 1s and 2s on 6 dice. So it's highly unlikely that you would lose 2. You'd have to roll 6 hazardous dice, and all of them would have to be 1s and 2s in order to lose 2 guys. And there are definitely plenty of times when I've rolled a couple 1s on the 6 dice right now. So depending on the unit, it gets better for some and worse for some others. Monsters and vehicles are more likely now just take that 3 damage because it's on a 1 or 2. So that is interesting. However, it does not have to go on the model that has the hazardous weapon. It just goes on the unit. So, like, for example, Death Watch and their Talon Strike kill team, you've got Plasma Inceptors and you've got Jump Interceptors. Now, you can fire all the plasma weapons. If you make some fails, you can just take them on the Jump Interceptors that have bolt pistols and chainswords rather than on the Inceptors or even the Plasma Pistol Jump Intercessors. So it's going to give you a lot of flexibility, especially if you've got a character or something, they've got a plasma pistol. Now you don't have to worry so much. It used to be that if a character failed a hazardous, they would take the 3, but now they don't. They just take 1, which is way better for characters, especially because they can just throw it on their unit. So if it's 1 mortal wound on their unit, that unless it's a 1 wound model, it's not even going to kill you.
But does that mean now, I wonder if we're going to see more weapons that have the hazardous mechanic and more things that have hazardous mechanics to it, since it's a little bit simpler, and that, like you mentioned, it's part of the Desperate Breakout now.
Yeah, when you fall back when you're battle shocked, you got to take a hazard roll. It's the same. It's the same roll.
Is that going to be the same for blown up transports too? Probably.
Yeah.
Yep, that makes sense.
Yeah, so they're just using the hazard roll for a lot more things, not just hot weapons.
Model visibility, fully visible. Looks like that's all the same for the most part until we get to the actual terrain. More pretty pictures. All right, now we're getting to the start of the game. You got a little excited there. Got a little excited.
Phases doesn't really change any of the phases. Let's get to...
We'll move up real quick. I just want to see one thing in the phases. So charge phase is still separate from the fight phase. Okay, that's what I was wondering if they still
sure it is. Yep.
Get that. And then the end. Ooh, what's that say in the end step? Did it look like there was 2 breakdowns of it? First resolve. Okay, so this might actually matter. Go up to the command phase real quick. Sorry, now seeing that now makes me wonder how they go up to the command phase real quick, because start of turn, command phase, martial strategic. Okay, so they didn't break down more.
Yeah, the command phase is broken down. So let's get to that.
Oh, okay.
So the command phase is start of command phase. So any rules that are triggered at the start of a command phase happen then. Then you gain your CP, yay, and then you battle shock. So you battle shock essentially before anything that says you do it in your command phase, unless it says the start of the command phase. So it says right here, command abilities happens after the battle shock step. So that's kind of rough. Especially for, I don't know, things that give orders, take orders, like in Imperial Guard. It's just the sequencing is laid out more because sometimes it would be kind of tricky in 10th edition when something happened.
Excluding those that, what did it say? Excluding those that are triggered. So there are some that's triggered at the start of the command phase. So that might matter when gaining core, because it does say excluding those that are triggered at the start.
Yeah, so basically, if something says it happens in your command phase, it happens after the battle shock.
Phase 4.
Unless it says the start of your command phase, then it would happen before battle shock. But that's the only way. If you have an ability or a strat or anything, then you want to use it before the battle shock step. The only way you can do that is if it specifically says in the strat, start of the command phase. So,
and then at this point in time now, the last piece, first we resolve rules that triggered at the end of command phase. You trigger all rules first, other than mission rules, and then you consult your mission So scoring happens at the very, 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 very last point of the command phase. Whew. So abilities that could maybe battle shock or unbattle shock things would happen prior to that. But I do like where this during in command phase after battle shock. So some of the abilities like we were talking about before with characters, those could trigger after you failed the battle shock, and then you could use an ability instead of spending command points to it. So that
it specifies. So you take the battle shock before command abilities that. And so if you're with your Necrons, with your reanimation, unless it says start of the command phase, it's going to happen after you take battle shocks.
That's interesting. That's going to be. I mean, it's not anything really too different from what we've been doing right now. It's just going to be. It's just going to be. What do you call it? It's just cleaner. It's just kind of going to be cleaner and more organized for when these things do. And honestly, 10th edition wasn't that bad for it. Everything was pretty much pretty cleaned up. So this is just kind of cleaning it up a little bit more, but for the most part, it seems pretty much the same.
Mm-hmm.
All right, now we're talking about battle shocks and stuff again.
Yeah, we kind of already talked about battle shocks.
Movement phase. Start movement phase. All right, so now remain stationary, normal, advance, fallback, disembark move, ingress move. So the ingress move is a new thing to talk about. What you got?
No, someone just said lane. You go ahead and read.
All right, so now we have, I mean, remain stationary, normal move, advance move, fallback move, disembark move, ingress move. So as we've seen before, select one type of move. You're selecting the type of move. We see some of these things where it says when you make an advance move, when you make a fallback move. So this is not a fallback move is also a normal move. It is not the same. Things that we see, I've seen stuff that triggered, especially out of Necrons, where the Wraiths, they are able to, their ability to kind of bomb when they move over stuff is triggered when you make a normal move. Well, the strat specifically says you make a normal move. So this is something we'd seen last edition where it's definitely much cleaner and divided out on what each of these things are. I remember at one point in time, there was a big thing of like advancing out of combat, being able to move and go, oh, and then I'm going to advance. It's like in running in that aspect. And now that's not something you're going to be able to do. A fallback move is simply a fallback move, as we're going to touch base on here real quick. We'll touch base in a second on what
most of these haven't changed much. As we said earlier, I was talking earlier that vehicles and monsters now can move through enemy models that are not vehicles and monsters. But that's just a normal or advanced move. They can't make fallback moves through them, so that affects how you can't really just fall back through models. But one of the big changes to the movement step is that nowhere in this does it say that ingress, deep strike, coming in from reserves, they don't say that happens at the end of your movement phase. So you can do that at any point during your movement phase. So you don't have to worry. Essentially, you don't have to worry about the order you're moving your models, especially because you don't have to bait out Overwatch anymore. Because in 10th edition, there's always a little mini game in the movement phase. You move a unit and then look at your opponent and be like, "Do you want to Overwatch?" They say no. Then okay, move the next unit. Do you want to Overwatch this one? And then move the next one. So you don't have to worry about that anymore. It's still going to be a bit of a game with counter moves, of course. If you move within 9 inches of my combi weapon lieutenant, he's going to move. There's still a bit of that interaction, but you don't have to worry about Overwatch in the middle of the phase. You don't have to worry about the order that you bring things or move things on the table or bring them in from reserve.
So if you're at a tournament and you need to use the bathroom, but you want to Overwatch something, you can go use the bathroom and come back and make your Overwatch decision.
Listen, a bunch of youngins out there. For an old guy like me, it's important that I be able to go to the bathroom when I need to. So I'm glad to have that. Like I said, you're still going to have your counter moves that happen in reaction to a movement, but now Overwatch just happens at the end. And you can bring in deep strikes and ingresses whenever you want to.
All right, so now let's get down to the brass tacks of this all. And then it says you resolve the end of movement phase abilities. Any abilities that resolve in the movement phase resolve at the end. There's probably still some abilities that are like when this unit moves and stuff like that resolve, but any other abilities end of movement phase resolve that fashion. All right, so now remain stationary is the same. We did see at one point in time in Warhammer 40k Light where remain stationary was model specific. so you can move the whole unit but keep your heavy weapons still and gain the boost. This is the all or nothing. One dude moves, one moves, they all move.
Yeah,
so
that's the way it was in 10th edition, but there were
Yes.
times in the past when you could move one model in a unit.
Yes.
Yeah, heavy weapon. But yeah, normal move is a normal move.
Specifically, eligible if I do like their structuring with this. If anyone's looking in the book right now, this is structured a lot like the cards, where it's just like how this is all divided out. It's just very simple C++ if and then statement.
Yeah.
So
if you are unengaged, then you can move, make it
instead of having like a massive paragraph to cover all that.
Mm-hmm.
All right, and then what is that? What is this one?
This is a fallback. They just kind of codify the fact that you can fall back. If you're not battle shocked, you just make your move. If you are battle shocked, then you make a desperate escape move. Then you have to do the hazard roll for every model that moved, not just models that. Yeah. So
it's called the desperate escape.
And I think, and the way they have it worded here, that if you are surrounded by enemy models and you need to make a desperate escape test, you can pass through models. So you have the option of doing that if you want to. You just have to take that hazard
Sometimes
test.
a model will be mandatory if applicable consolidation models, but in any case, exclusively you must assess each one of these new presented. If it does not meet the conditions of any modes, it can not make that move.
Yeah. So like order retreat is when you just fall back regularly. Desperate escape is when you have been battle shocked and you can have to fall back. You have to make a desperate escape. But desperate escape also allows you to move through enemy models. So even if you're not battle shocked and you've been wrapped by an enemy unit, you can move through the enemy models if you voluntarily decide to do the desperate escape test. So they just give you the option and make it clear here that you can either do a regular fallback or a desperate escape. Shoot.
All right, shooting.
They've changed some wording on some of the shooting stuff, but most of it is the same. Close quarters is now what we call pistols, and it functions the same as pistols. Okay. You can only fire one if you've got close quarters weapons. You can only fire one of them unless you're a vehicle or monster. So blah blah blah. The significant changes are to indirect. And it seems like they really just wanted to.
You said the monster and vehicle portion. I saw that on there. That's not a special rule for big guns never tire. That's just included in the engagement.
Yeah, just in the shooting, you can monsters and vehicles that are in engagement range are eligible targets.
They are eligible targets, and they're eligible to shoot as well if they're in engagement range.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I think it goes over that in the vehicle section.
Oh, okay. A blast.
And blast is the same.
Okay.
You can't shoot blast into an engagement range.
Okay.
Either way.
Either side of it.
Yeah.
Okay.
So indirect shooting has changed quite a bit. And it seems like they just nerfed this specifically for Space Marines. It'll be interesting to see how much they change the points on indirect fire. I mean, there have definitely been times when I throw Desolation Squads and Whirlwinds on the table. This is just kind of ridiculous. So indirect fire weapons can shoot at things they can't see. The target always has the benefit of cover if they're firing indirectly. You're not allowed to reroll hit rolls, which, like most armies that have indirect fire don't have hit rerolls, other than like Marines with Oath of Moment. Maybe Imperial Guard, if they're in Grizzled Company, they can reroll a 1 if they roll 1. But there are few armies that have full rerolls to hit with an indirect weapon. It's mostly Space Marines with Oath targets. So they really just want to say, hey, Marines, you don't get to do that anymore. This is really a bummer for a variety of reasons. Obviously, don't get to reroll hits, but then if you have something that shoots indirectly, you're much less likely to use a stratagem on it because you're going to be very inefficient by not getting the opportunity to reroll hits. You're going to take less advantage of a strat if you're not rerolling your hits into it. You're only hitting on 4s. For example, in Ceramite Sentinels, I take Desolation Marines, put them into the Oath target because the rest of the army is rerolling 1 hit, 1's the wound anyways, as long as they're touching terrain. So the Desolation Marines would go into the Oath target, and I use a strat to give them sustained and lethal. Well, I'm not gonna put them in the Oath target because they don't get the rerolls to hit, and then I'm not going to use the strat on them because the sustained and lethal is really only beneficial when you're rerolling those hits and getting those extra rolls to generate more 6s. So, and of course, if nothing in your army can see the target unit, then you're hitting on 6s. And the way they state it here is the unmodified hit roll of 1 through 5 always fails. unless your unit remains stationary this turn and the target is visible to one or more enemy units. So not only does it have to be visible to another enemy, another model in your army, your target, your indirect fire unit also cannot have moved in order to hit on anything better than 6s, which is just kind of a way to say, wait, yeah, don't take indirect fire, guys. They'd have to make these units incredibly cheap in order to set, especially with Marines. Like I said, you're usually relying on Oath and all the buffs that has, and this is just really a bummer for indirect. I know if indirect is overpowered, it's a bummer for everyone because it's not fun to play against. But this just feels like a brutal nerfing to it. They've said in some of their chats and things that they've said that they're going to reduce the points cost on indirect. We'll see. 200-point Desolation Marines are going to have to come down to about 100, maybe 110 for me to take them because they are just not going to do a whole lot of work.
Yeah, I would stop buying Krieg artillery for the time being. But, I mean, we could see some weapon profiles go up. One of the things that we saw from 9th into 10th was a lot of the artillery weapons really, really significantly got weakened. There's two factors that are going to be big into this as well. Number one, the artillery that has AP1, now that benefit of cover is not the same, which we're going to talk when we get over that. That's more into that. But you're not immediately looking at AP1 and going, oh, look, my AP doesn't matter. So increasing the power with the weapons could be good. I feel like they're inching closer and closer to it. We've seen GW change rules as the game has gone on. We've seen them change indirect as the game's continued. I think this is a little too much of a pull back. I can understand not having the rerolls. This is indirect fire. Maybe not needing to be quite as inaccurate, though. I don't know. It is artillery, so we do have that factor. But we'll see how that goes. We'll see how that goes with it. I feel like maybe there might be some changes in the future to tweak it a bit. We could see some weapons get some stronger strength, though. At least that's a positive.
Yeah, they've said they're going to reduce points cost, and a lot of armies that have indirect don't rely on rerolls. Like Guard just relies on having a lot of units that are firing indirectly, not on specifically rerolls. They have a lot of cheap indirect weapons that they can take. I know the Votan have their little Earthshaker indirect gun, which doesn't do a ton of damage, but it makes you take battle shocks, which is going to be very relevant, and it doesn't get any rerolls as it is. So I think depending on what they do to the points, there will be some stuff with indirect, but they really don't want it to do damage at all. I mean, in order to hit on 4s, you have to have another model in your army has to be able to see the target unit, and your shooting unit has to have not moved, and you don't get rerolls. It's just like, wow, that really slaps.
We have seen it. We have seen it cripple in the past, though, where like artillery just some of the armies you just play against, and it immediately you're just like, oh, I feel bad because I just eliminated 80% of your or 800 points from your army on turn 1, and you're not going to be able to do anything in return.
So I see it was Tom that said you should stop building his Krieg artillery. Yeah, sorry, Tom. I mean, they might get cheaper, and then you can. The thing is, if they make the indirect too cheap, then you just use it as direct. If they make a whirlwind tank 100 points, then you just drive it out so it gets direct line of sight and can see things and shoot things, and it's still good. I think there's going to be play to it, but I think this specifically nerfs the Marines quite a bit with the O3 rolls into a target.
Like Darkjaw did say, the artillery platforms, they do have really, really big bases. So that is good for zone.
Oh, there's definitely going to be value to them because a lot of them debuff things. Like the Space Marine Whirlwind makes you take a battle shock if you hit, I think, non-vehicles and monsters, which has got even more powerful now.
There's a lot of value behind that model. That model's beautiful. I built a couple of those. Those are gorgeous.
Yes, but a lot of the Imperial Guard ones are debuffing units. So if they get cheaper, they're even more valuable as a debuff unit. So
yeah, there you go.
Oh my God, the charge phase. I don't even want to.
Oh, here we go.
The charge phase isn't so bad. It's when we get to the pylons and stuff. So charging, basically,
here's where the changes lie.
The charge phase itself isn't so bad, because you just choose a unit that's going to charge. You throw the dice, and then once you see the result of the dice, you charge something that's in range of that. You do have to get all the way there. So if you're 7.1 inches away from something, you have to roll an 8 on the dice to get there. So that's really the only way that melee has been nerfed a little bit, is that you do have to get the full distance to your charge target, not just within engagement range for the charge to be successful. But other than that, it's going to really allow you to throw those dice, see what the result is, then choose your target. Maybe you want to go into a big, juicy target. You don't roll great. Well, then you can still go and beat up a couple scouts or something, get some value out of your melee unit, even if you go all the way. And if you do roll a really high roll, you roll a 12, you may be able to launch yourself away into your opponent's deployment zone, pick up whatever they have in their home field objective, take out key units, assassinate characters, whatever it may be. It's going to be really strong. But it's still going to be really swingy. Like, you're not going to know what's going to happen until those dice are rolled and you make that measurement and realize that your most important model now is the subject of an 11-inch charge. So it's, I think it's going to be very powerful. It's still very swingy, but it's going to be game breaking for some people. And I think one of the issues I feel is going to happen a lot is that if a fast melee army gets into your lines and they make a long charge, they'll just be able to tag a bunch of different units and really gum up your ability to activate. I think, say, a 10-man squad of Death Company Marines with jump axe gets in your deployment zone and roll a big charge, they'll just tag 3 or 4 different units, maybe tanks, that sort of thing, that don't have much of a melee profile. The Death Company swings, kills 1 or 2 little units, but then the rest of your army that's been tagged by them is denied an activation really in the next turn, because they can't move. If you don't have a fallback and activate, it's going to be a tough time for you. So guess what? Gladius is still really good, guys. Being able to pick that ability to have fallback and shoot and charge with your army is going to be real. I think the ability to fall back and activate is going to be very important with this change, because there are just going to be times when someone just knocks out a 12-inch charge that you were not expecting. So that still happens in the game. Right now you make long charges, but you have to declare them. Now you don't declare them until after you roll the dice. So, but those are the 2 main changes. You choose your targets after you roll, and then you have to get all the way there, all the way to base-to-base contact for the charge to be successful.
Where does it say that part? I know that's true, but where does it say the maximum distance for the charge roll? And then, okay, I'm sure it probably goes on it. Because I know right above it, there's an interesting little buff on the left side that talks about it, is the fact that one thing that we don't have in 10th that we now have, if you roll double ones, you fail.
Yeah, that too. Because engagement range is 2 inches, and you can't be within 2 inches of someone at the start of the charge phase.
And that's in the absence of charge modifier. So I guess you could, if you get +1 to charge, you could still make it.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Dante's good, guys. Dante's good with the Blood Angels. This makes you take battle shock tests, and makes your charge unfailable if you're 2.5 inches away.
Huh. If it is possible to make the charge move.
Yeah, is it Dark Jaw or Dark Yaw?
I see it too, yeah.
Dark Yaw.
Dark Yaw?
Yeah. The AP for indirect is still real, so you don't have to worry about losing it to cover, but you got to get the hit roll happens a lot sooner than the save roll, so it's going to be more have a greater impact on the attack.
One thing I do like, though, that's in here with the make the charge roll. Let's you roll the dice and you roll. You're 5 inches away. Okay, you're 5 inches away from the successful charge, and so you roll that 5, and you look at it, and with coherency and basing and everything like that, you're really not going to get a lot of guys in combat. You're going to be right out in the middle. You didn't get over onto the objective like you wanted to. You don't have to make that charge. It does actually say make a charge roll for this, and then
if you don't like the charge roll, you don't have to go. You don't have to move.
It says if you still want to make a charge move with that unit, otherwise your unit does not make a charge move in the case the charge is then resolved. So you're not forced to have to go like, oh, what you really wanted was 6 inches away. You rolled a 3. There is a unit that's 3 inches away. You can just choose not to charge. So it's a small little thing. Probably won't come up that frequently, but it's nice to keep that in mind, that you're not locked in that, like, oh, I rolled the dice, now I have to make this charge. And then you end the charge phase.
Yep.
So charge move. Here's where it probably goes into what I was just saying. So charge move. Oop, a little too far on that one.
Charge move.
Select unit distance of your units.
You have to end closer to one or more charge targets. Each model that can end its move within 1 inch of one or more charge targets must do so. and each model that can in its move engage with one or more charge targets must do. So if you can get within an inch, you have to. If you can get within 2 inches, you have to. It doesn't say you have to base, so that kind of frees up some surfboarding around models for consolidation and pylons and that sort of thing. But it doesn't say you have to base, but if you can get within an inch, you have to. If you can get within 2, you must also.
Moving your nuclear charge. Each model must end its move closer to one or more charged units. Yes. Each model that can end its move within 1 inch of one or more charge targets must do so. Okay. Each model that can. Where does it say? I know that we've already established that this is true, but I just haven't seen. Is it later for that? For the fact that if you're 7.1 inches away, that means you need that 8. Is that later on in it? I just haven't seen it for my own references. The unit's eligible charge, not within 12, is engaged. Declare the charge. Select one friendly unit that is not declared a charge. This phase is eligible to declare a charge. That unit declares a charge. The unit is eligible to declare a charge if the battlefield otherwise stated. Here are some units. 12 engaged. That's the only thing. I just don't see where it actually. I know that it's. I know that's what it is. I know it's true.
But yeah, we're not going to dig around in here.
Yeah, that's something. If it pops up, I'm looking for that. That's what I was looking in here, and I see.
Yeah, right. It says the unit is within the maximum distance of your charge. So the maximum distance of your charge is the dice roll. So if you roll a 9, you have to get that unit has to be within 9 inches. So if you're 8.1 inches away, you have to roll 9.
That's right, because that's where it declares. Okay, so that's where it declares it first. Okay, that's because that's one thing that like I think newer players are going to not fully understand with that. Like, well, I'm 2 inches away. It's
actually new players have the advantage because they're not going to be confused by the way things work in 10th. So it'll be fine.
Right, that's true.
If you're new, you're good.
Yeah. So, but yeah, and it even kind of gives an example below where it shows that. But yeah, you have to, for all intents and purposes, if you're 7.1 inches away, you're 8 more than 8. You need the 8. So, now we're going to get to the fun.
I don't know. It's getting late, man. Do we want to just skip this and just talk about how some of these changes affect our armies? Because I don't know if I want to get into the whole pilot and consolidate thing. That might be another day.
I think we need to go into it.
Okay.
Start of fight phase, pile in, fight, consolidate. So there's 5 things you're going to be doing in the fight phase in this order. First, start of the fight phase. Rules that are triggered at the start of the fight phase are not resolved. Okay, cool. That's easy. All right. Off to a good start. 2, pile-in. Both players make pile-in moves. While all of their eligible units, they choose to move. With all the eligible units, they choose to move. The eligible if section describes which units are eligible to make such moves. The player whose turn it is resolves all of their moves first. This is a big thing to talk about, is that we are dealing with a lot of who the player is and who the turn is. So for intensive purposes, for right now discussing this to try to make this easy, I am going to be the active player. Lane is the defending player. Okay. So it's my turn. I've declared my charges. So now the eligible if section. So player's turn is, so it's my turn. So I'm going to resolve all of my pile-in moves first.
Yep.
The player's turn, and then by the opposite, each unit cannot make more than one pile-in move during the step, allegedly. So, all right. So I make my pile-in moves. So I move everybody 3 inches still.
Yep.
And what is there a 5 there?
Select one of my. You have to, if you're within 5 inches, then you can get within engagement range because you 3-inch move and then 2-inch engagement range.
Okay, got it. Makes sense.
If you're doing a pile-in, you have to select an enemy that's within 5 because you have to move.
Yeah, because if you can't
get within engagement range, then you can't do it.
So you just can't. So even if you're so could that cause you to break coherency?
No, you can't.
Is engaged. Is made a charge move this turn. Eligible if is engaged. Has made a charge move this turn. It was selected to make an overrun fight this phase.
Yes, that's if you That's if you were in engagement range, and then the model you were in engagement range is killed, and you haven't fought yet, and then you can do it.
Oh, that's this. That's this.
That's the
That's
second
this.
pile.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Okay.
This is kind of interesting because if you make all your pile-in moves, and then I have to make my pile-in moves, I might not want to pile everything in, because if I do, it might give more of your models the ability to hit me. You know, because it's just 2-inch engagement range, so you do all your pile-ins. If I pile in more of my models closer and you fight first, it might actually create more models that are within 2 inches of your unit. So,
oh, this is all just the same. This is that 5 inches if you're not engaged. Got it. Okay.
So you might not, if you're the defending player, you might not want to pile in too much, or else you might give more of your enemy's models the ability to punch you. Excuse me.
Must move closer to the pile-in target and engaged with as possible. And so yeah, so now you can't. Am I reading this right? So if I charge you with my blood crushers, and I leave one dude left alive, I am not allowed to pile in to another unit that's next to me and engage them. Based on what I'm seeing right here is each model that moved must end its move closer to the closest pile-in target, or am I and engage with it possible? Okay, so we can still fan out.
You have to go to the closest one.
Right.
On a model by model basis. So if I have my one guy here, and you have a couple guys here, and there's another guy way over here, you can't go towards the guy that's further away.
No, but
if this guy's within 5, if I have a model of different units within 5 inches, and I have the one you're engaged with that's within 3 inches, you can't go to the one that's within 5 inches because it's further away.
Correct. But if the opposite's being so, is that your unit's 5 inches away from my model, and there's a dude who's 3 inches away, I could go and pile into that unit, engaging a second unit. But I guess it doesn't really matter too much now because of the fact of the charge. Oh no, that can still matter. That actually doesn't matter as much because the charge roll and fight first changes. So, all right, then after moving, you must be engaged. So single folk, you're not allowed to do it. Each model that started, okay, let's see what I did there. Funniness. This move engaged with an enemy unit must still be engaged with that enemy unit.
You can't pile out of engagement with a unit.
Yeah, it makes sense. Yeah. That's never been a thing.
Lots of pictures of piling in. Fight.
All right. The unit is eligible to fight. There's already fought. They already selected to fight this phase. And the following apply to it. It is engaged or was engaged at the start of this step.
So if you're engaged at the start of the fight phase, you're eligible to fight.
Yep.
And this includes enemy models, enemy units, or the non-controlling player's turn.
Yeah. But if you don't have a target, you can't hit it. So, and you're not.
Fight first combats go first, starting with the active player.
Yep. So that's a big change. That's a massive change because right now we're dealing with the defense, so it makes the fight first aspect very strong. Now it's your turn. It goes first. And resolving remaining combats, starting with the player who just moved this sequence onto this step. Just moved this sequence.
This is the worst sentence in this entire rulebook. Resolve remaining combats.
That is terrible.
Starting with the player who just moved this sequence onto this step, players alternate selecting one friendly unit that is eligible to fight. That unit is selected to fight. If this is not possible, I think they just alternate back and forth. So if you are the attacking player and you fight with all your fight first, then I get to fight first on the remaining combats because we just keep alternating back and forth regardless of whose turn it is. But
starting with the player who just moved this sequence onto this step. So if I
think this sequence moved on here. So whoever's turn,
otherwise the player selects their next unit. If there are no fight first units that are eligible to fight, move to the resolving combat step where this player will select their next unit. Oh, I get it. Yes, it's horribly worded. All right, so first we do resolve all the fights first, which is all the chargers. If you don't have anybody with fights first, then resolving combat step, the player will select their next unit. So it's on me. I'm select the fight first unit. Okay, cool. I picked one to fight. Now it's your turn. Oh, you don't have one? Okay, it's on to me. I fight. Dot, 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 dot. Clear through. All right, I'm done with my fights first. Now it's on to you. You pick your fight first. Oh, you don't have one. I
No,
have
it's always
none.
alternating. So if I have a fight first unit, you pick the first fight first, and then I fight
Right.
first, and then back to your fight first until.
Right. So what I'm saying though is now we get to the point that all the fight first are done.
Yep.
Okay. So I fought with mine.
So
My
you're the last
one.
person to
I
have a
fought with
fight
my
first.
last one. Yes.
Then it's my turn on the remaining combats.
Correct.
I believe.
And that's what it kind of does seem like. It says otherwise the player selects their next turn, because it would be if there's no fights first, they're eligible to fight. Move on to resolve the combat step, because it's always bounces to you. But if there's still fights first to resolve, that goes back to me, as in this definition, the active player.
Yeah.
So then it goes to you. Now I have none that are fight first. Because then I have none that are fight first, and it would be you to select. So it does kind of sound like yes. Then you do, and defensively you pick the first one.
I'm sure they're going to FAQ and clarify this because it's the worst.
That is absolutely atrocious.
You by reading this, you wouldn't be able to tell that the English invented the language English. So England, you get better at English. I don't know what to say.
Because at the same time, technically,
I can't imagine this translated into other languages. Like.
Because now here's the other issue with this too, with this kind of flipping. So we both have one unit that has fight first. I have one that has fight first. I charge. I fight. You now select your unit to fight first, and you fight. Now it comes back to me, and I don't have one, and you don't have one either. So now I move to this phase and get to fight with the result.
Yeah.
That's disgusting.
If it also means that, let's say, you maybe don't want to charge anything in your fight first, because if we have an ongoing combat, because it's your turn, you would get to fight first.
Yes.
So let's say you have your charge phase, you don't charge anything. As the active player, you don't charge anything, and then but there are ongoing combats. So when we get to the resolve for remaining combats, if you're the active player, you get to go first. If you didn't have any charging or fight first units, so.
And yes, Darkjaw, yes, double ones do fail, but it does say in retrospective of modifiers. So something like World Eaters, demons have the banner that gives them +1 charge. The 2 would actually be a 3. So you could get into engagement with that, because it does actually say, assuming there's no modifiers, double ones will always fail. But it's not one of the situations like we see with other stuff that automatically calls it out that a double one fails. Like for rolling to hit, it states if you roll a 1, that is a fail. Doesn't matter if you have +1 to hit and you're hitting on 2s, that one's not a 1 will fail. All right.
Fighting is pretty much the same. The actual attacks are pretty much the same. You still have the issue of resolving your saves, like you do with we talked about before with shooting. But if you have a person with 7 attacks on their chainsword, you can split those between different units. You can split up your attacks to different targets. That's fine. But other than that, the actual attack sequence hasn't really changed, other than overrun fight. So if you started the fight phase in engagement range with someone, and now you're not engaged because another unit killed the unit you were engaged with, you can make another pile-in move. That's basically what it says. If your unit is unengaged or was unengaged at the start of the fight step but became engaged during the fight phase, you can now make one additional pile-in move and then fight as described in making attacks. So you get another pile-in move. Yay!
So it is if you're eligible, if your unit is unengaged or was unengaged at the start of the fight phase, but became engaged. But
I think this is a typo. I think that's probably supposed to say engaged. Either you're engaged, or if you're unengaged, started the fight and then became engaged. I'm guessing that's a typo.
But you have to have become engaged. So how are you becoming engaged during the fight phase? Because
if you overrun fight into me, then I can overrun fight into you, pile in fight to you.
Okay. So
say I have a unit that didn't get to pile in. If you overrun fight into me and slap me, then I can still do a pile in move, even though I wasn't engaged at the start of the fight phase. So
it's confusing.
Yep.
So you are eligible to. So I made all my pile-in moves. All right, you made all your pile-in moves. Now we move over into the fight step. So I fight with one unit. I do damage. I kill a unit.
Let's say you charge a rhino with 2 different units, and there's stuff inside the rhino. You kill the rhino with 1 unit. I disembark my unit. It's not, and then you can pile in, overrun fight because you started that turn in engagement range.
Start of the fight step will become unengaged, or was unengaged at the start of the fight step, but became engaged during the fight phase. Wow. Okay.
Yeah, they just need to do more examples. So I'm sure we'll see videos going through and doing this step by step. But it's basically if you were eligible to fight, but then became uneligible to fight because someone was pulled out of engagement range, you can still do a pile-in. Consolidate. Consolidate's kind of simpler now. Is similar, not simpler. It's never simpler. It's similar now, and that there's 3 different consolidates. If you're engaged, then you consolidate into enemy units that you're already engaged with. If you are not engaged with someone at the end of the fight phase, you can then consolidate into an enemy unit if you want to. If there's no enemy units within engagement range, but you can consolidate onto an objective, you can. And it doesn't say you have to get closer to the objective. You can just move around and then consolidate on the objective. So it allows you to just kind of move around those big objectives.
Yeah. I mean, and that is kind of what it was before. It was enemy unit first, objective second.
Yeah, it's pretty similar. Just that we now have these big objectives on these big terrain pieces. So to consolidate when you don't have an enemy unit near you and you have an objective near you, it just says you have to. Your unit must end within range of the selected objective. So even if you're already on there, you can still move around in a position a little bit, maybe get more guys into cover, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, we did it. We got through the 5 phase.
Yeah, we got through it, but that's still the whole on that separate rule does not make sense to me at all right now. How that functions with it, I'm going to need to sit down and like really digest that because it just doesn't. It doesn't sit well with me because it's just like you said. It's like okay, and again, how it's worded is rough. Where it's like, oh, you're engaged now. A unit is destroyed. Like, yeah, that's all right. Well, I'll I think that'll be something that we'll have to discuss separately on that because that might be something that needs some examples with some models because that's going to be intense.
Yep. All right, Dark says you're heading out here. Thanks for all the comments. Thanks for sticking with us. We appreciate it.
Yeah, appreciate you. Thank you so much. We're going to be running through the terrain here next, and you'll see the video upload later on, so you can check out what you missed.
Terrain. There's light terrain, dense. There's exposed terrain. Oh no, we're exposing ourselves. Exposed terrain, light terrain, and dense terrain. Exposed terrain isn't really something we're probably not going to see really in competitive play because it's just like craters or razor wire or just scattered debris. But light terrain is just anything like barricades and low walls. And dense terrain is your buildings, ruins, armored containers, that sort of thing. So really, there's 2 different things we're talking about. We're talking about terrain. Terrain features are the 3-dimensional terrain objects you actually place on the board. And then terrain area is the map. So I think they kind of codified what we're calling these things: terrain features and terrain areas. Yeah.
Which is relevant, very relevant, because we need to, just call it like the terrain footprint, having a name for it is fair.
So exposed terrain, light terrain, all models can move through it. And it's fine.
Yep. Everything.
Dense terrain, infantry, beasts, swarm, and anything with a new mobile keyword can move horizontally through dense terrain features. And infantry, beasts, and swarms can move vertically through dense terrain features. And other models can move through. It's like vehicles and monsters can move through dense as long as it's 2 inches high or less.
Yep.
Moving vertically, you can move vertically if you're going to put anything on the second floor or third floor of ruins. It has to fit on there. If it fits, it sits. If it doesn't fit, it cannot sit. So you can't have models with their bases overhanging the train. They have to wholly fit on there.
Yep, that was last edition too. Moving vertically, that's that.
It does say the monsters can climb up in buildings as long as they have the space to do that.
Yeah.
Vehicles, no, but things that fly and things that are monsters can and moves on top of train. Again, as long as their base does not overhang.
Then we get pictures. Pictures.
Terrain invisibility.
Okay, that's actually there was something I heard that there's a little bit of a difference in here. Might have been with the visibility with terrain. Benefit of cover, infantry beasts and swarm models are the only thing that gets the benefit of cover. What is it?
Nope. Hang on. This confused me the first time I read it too. So, in order to get cover, if it's an infantry beast or swarm model, it can either be wholly within a terrain area. So, even if your whole unit of infantry beasts and terrain are on the area terrain, even if you can fully see them, they get covered. Now, if a vehicle or monster are mounted or wholly within on this, it doesn't automatically give them cover unless some part of the model or unit is obscured by the physical terrain features.
Okay. That's what.
So if you have a solo character standing in the middle of that, infantry character standing in the middle of that area, the train area, he's going to have cover, even if you can see his whole model. If there is a vehicle, like say a dreadnought standing in the middle there, if you can see his whole model, he doesn't get the benefit of cover. He has to be obscured by the physical terrain pieces, the physical terrain features. So that's a little bit different from 10th edition. Previously, if your model was wholly on the train, you've got cover. But now vehicles and monsters and mounted for some reason, they can only get cover if they're visibly obscured by train pieces.
I think that's what I was talking about. That I knew.
And of course, as we know, benefit of cover now is that you worsen the ballistic skill of the attack by 1.
I'm just glad swarms can move through the terrain now. That made me so angry.
Yeah, it's because you're scarabs. There are not very many swarm units in the game. Nurglings and scarabs and what was there one other? Rippers.
Yeah, I think that's about it.
Hidden now is the new rule. A model of if you're infantry beast or swarm and you're within a terrain area, so you're wholly within the terrain area. No, you're not wholly. You just have to be within a terrain area because it contains one or more dense terrain features. That model's unit did not make a move or range. Did not make one or more ranged attacks. Yeah.
Okay.
So you're hidden if you are infantry beast and swarm. You're within terrain that has one or more dense terrain features.
Okay.
And you did not shoot.
Yep.
You can still apparently charge and attack, and that does not take away your hidden features. You just can't shoot.
That's kind of cool because that's like hidden tactics, like you're hiding in corridors and stuff. And you go out to strike and that.
And it doesn't say wholly within the terrain area, so you just have to be towing into the terrain. As long as your whole unit's doing that, then you are hidden until otherwise.
As long as the whole unit's towing into terrain.
Yeah, if you're hidden, you're not visible to enemy models until they get within 15 inches.
Which is huge. And again, because of the fact of shooting before, this means that you can deploy into that terrain and not be seen on turn 1. More light or dense features are obscuring terrain areas. If every line, so it has to have at least one dense piece. So like this piece, this piece that's kind of over here that has like these barricades and stuff that's light. So you wouldn't be able to do that in there, right? That's
right. Yeah.
Okay. So it's got to be the big walls.
Dense terrain features have the solid rule, so you can't see through windows up to the first 3 inches. So essentially, the first floor blocks line of sight is codified. Finally, after multiple editions of every tournament saying first floor blocks line of sight, now GW is finally saying it. So solid rule just means dense terrain features. So we've got a feature here with a little window through it. You can't see through that as long as it's 3 inches or less from the ground level. So
was it at 4 inches last edition? Now it's 3.
This was not a rule. This was not in GW.
Oh no, that was 4 inches to make it a rune.
Yeah.
Okay, that was something else. Okay.
Hidden, obscuring.
Yep. All right. So good. I mean, good. There's some good decent cleanup in there. And then we talk about objective control value.
Objective secured is officially a term now, a universal rule. That's just the OBSEC rule. If you control it, then you continue to control it until your opponent's OC over it is higher than yours.
You have to have that rule.
Yep.
Okay. It's not an automatic thing.
No.
Not like planting a flag.
Stratagems.
I miss planting flags.
Raise the banners.
Yep. All right. Strats.
So importantly now, so each player cannot use the same stratagem more than once in the same phase, and otherwise, unless otherwise stated, each player cannot target the same unit with more than one stratagem in the same phase. So in 10th edition, we know you couldn't use the same strat more than once in a phase, but now you can't use it more than one strat on a unit, so you can't double up. Defensively, it means you can't use armor, contempt, and popping smoke. You can't use multiple offensive strats on the same unit at the same turn. They just put the sequence for spending CP on strats now, so it just to include a statement about if there's a ability that increases the cost of that stratagem.
Okay, so it is now you can only use one stratagem per phase, period? Or is it one stratagem per unit?
Per unit.
Per unit, okay.
Yeah, you can use multiple strats in a phase, but you can't use them on the same unit. So there are some interesting things, like there's the ability to rapid ingress a unit that has strong Overwatch. So you used to be able to rapid ingress and then Overwatch. Well, now Overwatch has to happen at the end of the movement phase, and the rapid ingress happens at the end of the movement phase, so you can't use that two strats on one unit. So you can't rapid in Overwatch. Like your Grey Knights Purifiers. Yeah, you've done that to me before. Rapid ingress in Overwatch, you can't do that now because it's two strats on the same unit in the same phase.
I used to do, but I would do it when you charge me.
You can't do, yeah.
Because that's a different phase.
Right, I understand that. You can't do that anymore. Because Overwatch only happens at the end of the movement phase.
Oh,
it does not happen in the charge phase.
Okay, yeah. That's the change in that strat. Not the same as for when we're using this.
Yeah.
What I do like with this in the ordering that they do, and this is something I play Magic the Gathering, Lane does not. Order of operations is very, very good for some of this, and like you said, like the spending of the CP for these stratagems and stuff like that, for being able to when you're declaring it and how it happened. Now, do they declare the order of who uses the stratagems first? So I think it's in the order of operations now, because like you said, the end of the phase and stuff like that. We're not playing a battle back and forth. It's not like we're slinging cards at each other in that aspect. So that kind of changes it. But I do like some of this stuff because I see it with Magic, how that affects things and how it cleans it up. So it's nice to see that. All right, what do we got?
Let's talk about stratagems.
Let's talk about stratagems.
Heroic intervention.
We're heroically intervention.
I may be a little bit of a country boy. So in your opponent's charge phase, one friendly unengaged unit within 12 inches of one or more enemy units, you can only select a vehicle unit if it's a character or walker. So now you can do it with character units. Character vehicles, which you got one. That's Graves, isn't it? Yep, and like Rogaldorn tank. If I want to. Yeah, Graves would be good because he actually punches pretty well. So it just allows you to charge in your opponent's charge phase. So there are two options here. For one CP, you can leap to defend, where you pick any enemy unit that made a charge move within 12 inches of your unit, and you roll a charge.
All right, so the question I was asked before is, this does not count as making a charge move, so you do not count as you don't get the fight first. Then
I don't know, it doesn't say that on here.
Make a charge roll. If the result is greater than 6, we're charge 6.
This is the separate thing.
Yeah.
So it doesn't say anywhere here that you don't get the charge bonus.
Okay.
I don't know if that'll be FAQ somewhere or not, but maybe you do get it. Maybe it does give you a fight first. So being that fight first is not as good, it might not be that great.
Yeah.
So for one CP, you can make a charge move at any enemy unit that completed a charge move within 12 inches of your unit. You still have to roll. So you declare a 12-inch, but if you don't roll the 12, you wasted your CP.
Mm-hmm.
For an extra command point, you can choose a unit of yours and make a charge at something that did not make a charge. So this would be enemy unit. It has to be something within 6 inches, and when you roll your dice, if it's more than 6 inches, it just counts as a 6 for the dice. So you do, for 2 CP, have the ability to charge a unit that your opponent did not make a charge with, as long as they're within 6.
I think that it is going to be the fight first aspect of it, just because of the. I think my guess is, and we're not scrolling back to it. Made a charge move is dark, so that's what it's declaring it. So when we go back to the charge section, charge move, any unit that made a charge move gains fight first. So I think that might be the case. Ooh, modifying CP cost. When does that happen? Does that happen? And then rule sequencing, modifying CP cost.
Yeah, we're talking.
Oh, okay, okay, that's that. Okay. A little bit.
CP reroll, you can use it on advanced, charge rolls, damage rolls, hazard rolls, hit rolls, save rolls, and wound rolls.
Okay, nothing else there. Same as it was.
Or a roll to determine the number of attacks generated with weapon. Yep, same thing. You can no longer use it on desperate breakout test because hazard roll and desperate breakout test are the same thing. Explosives, the new grenades. Any friendly unit that has either explosives or the grenades keyword, you can throw grenades.
That's it. Same.
It's like, well,
roll 66, 4+, suffer mortal wound. Yep. 8-inch range. Yep.
Yeah. You just have to be eligible to shoot, and the target has to be unengaged. However, it doesn't say that you cannot do this if you fell back. So if you have the ability to fall back and shoot, you can't do it. You can't do that.
Advance, so you can't run and do it.
You cannot advance with grenades. Yeah, that's the same as now, but it doesn't doesn't exclude you from back. So if you have to be eligible to shoot. So if you can fall back and shoot, you can fall back and throw grenades.
Can you do it after you shoot? Because you're
nope. You have to be eligible to shoot.
Okay, so
after you shoot, you're not.
So that's how the wording is.
Yep.
Okay, got it.
Yeah, that's really the only thing that's changed. Is that you can, if you're eligible to shoot when you fall back, you can fall back through grenades. Crushing impact. It's our new tank shock.
Aww.
But it invites monsters into the party here.
Yeah. 2
changes the tank shock is that monsters can do it now, including vehicles. It's still based on your toughness. However, it's still, you do 1 mortal wound for each 5 up you roll on the dice. However, you take a mortal wound for each 1 you roll on the dice. So, yeah, it's a little spicy. You might damage yourself a little bit when you.
I don't know if I like that.
Yeah, it's going to make you think a little bit more about using tank shock and just throwing it out there, especially if your vehicle or monster is seriously wounded.
I mean, I'm cool with all that concept. It's just if we're going to be taking damage ourselves, I wish they would have done that. Made a little better on that one. Epic
challenge is still the same. Character unit gets precision.
Yep.
Character model.
CP. Yep. Insane bravery for 1 of the commandular points.
Same bravery, still the same. Auto pass and battle shock. However, you can only do it on a non-battle shock unit. So if you failed the battle shock already, you can't do anything with this.
Right. Well, yeah, because you can target a unit that's battle shock.
Yeah.
And you cannot use this stratagem more than once per battle.
Yeah, okay. Still limited to once per battle. Rapid ingress. You cannot do with aircraft because aircraft have goofy rules now.
Yep.
Still the same. You can rapid ingress.
Yep.
Can't do it in the first battle round.
Yep.
Smoke screen. Pick a smoke units.
Benefits of cover. Yep. Smoke unit.
Oh, wait, this is until the end of the phase, each time an attack targets either your smoke unit or a unit that is not fully visible to the attacking model because of the model in your smoke unit, the target has the benefit of cover. So smoke now gives cover to the unit that pops smoke, but also anything that's being obscured by that unit.
Huh. So you have a tank, and you have models by the tank.
Yeah. So a Land Raider doesn't give cover because it's not ruins until you pop smoke with it, and then it gives cover.
Huh. Neat.
It's kind of neat. Especially because there are some things like Phobos models a lot of times have smoke, so you can pop smoke with those. Overwatch. So now it only happens at the end of your opponent's movement phase, not in the fight phase.
Still though, Titanic.
Still can't do it with Titanic. And you snap shoot, so you only hit on 6s and cannot do any rerolls because snap shoot says you can't do rerolls.
Yep.
Once again, Space Marines overwatching with Oath of Moment takes a hit. So
and my Canoptic Doom Stalkers.
Yeah, there's some other units that can reroll hit rolls in Overwatch, but Heroic Intervention. We already talked about
that. Yeah, we did that.
Counter offensives, 2 CP, it's just the interrupt. And that really hasn't changed.
Yep.
After your opponent has made a fight, fought with one of their first, fight first, and your unit gains the fight first after that. It can then swing next.
All right. Performing actions.
Yeah, performing actions hasn't really changed much.
Completes when it completes. I love that.
Yeah, it completes
when it completes.
Yeah.
Good job.
Quit asking me about when it completes, man. It completes when it completes. Again, masterful use of the English language.
We get the other sentence that may technically be correct.
This explains how actions work. It starts when it started. Units, which friendly units can perform it. Use limit, how many times. It completes when it completes.
This may be my favorite section so
With
far.
the effort of completing it are any additional restrictions that may apply. Yeah, I think they do clarify in here that if you start an action with something that's that's not battle shocked, you can start an action with something that's not battle shocked, and maybe it completes at the end of your opponent's turn. If they do battle shock that unit, then the action fails.
Okay.
So if it's something that takes a whole battle round to complete, then if your opponent is able to battle shock that unit somehow, it fails the completion.
Yep.
Yeah, mostly the same stuff here. You have to have OC. Can't do it if you're engaged unless you're Titanic. No, that's just kind of a change. Any Titanic unit, not just super heavy walkers, can shoot and.
If it is not on the battlefield, can't do it. Yep, that makes sense. It is an aircraft fortification unit. Oh, fortifications are staying, that means, in some way, shape, or form. It is not battle shocked. It has an OC characteristic of 0 or dash. It is engaged unless it's Titanic. Hooray. It is advanced or fall back this turn. It started another action this turn.
Yeah, you can only do one action, so.
Yeah. Like you said, the big change is the fact that all Titanic can do it in engagement now.
Yeah. So
what's the deploy device?
That is an action that's specific to a mission. I'm not sure.
Oh, okay. It's just an example.
Yeah, this deploy device thing here is an example of an action. It does say only one infantry unit, so there may be actions in some of the missions that can only be completed by certain types of units.
Yep. Seeing the cards, we'll talk about those on a later date.
I think that's mostly it.
Wow, pretty pictures.
Good pictures.
What was something? What about? Oh, now we're in the advanced rules. Okay, so this should actually be pretty quick because a lot of it's the same. I think there's only a couple things we need to touch on. Moving monsters and vehicles.
This is important because now monsters and vehicles can move through enemy models. We kind of talked about this at the beginning of the stream, but you can move through enemy units now that are not monsters and vehicles with your monster and vehicle. So I can drive my Land Raider over other people's infantry units. Neat.
Yep, not other monsters and vehicles. Same things with Titanics. Titanics can go over everything except other Titanics.
Yeah, frame is a new keyword. It just means the hull. So if something doesn't have a base, then they use a frame keyword, and it just means you're measuring from the any point, the nearest point on the model.
Probably that model does not have a base. Turn it any amount around its central axis. Okay.
Just saying when you pivot around the central point.
Okay.
Have a base, shooting and engaged monsters and vehicles. Pretty much the same here. You can't fire blast weapons into melee, but you can target monsters and vehicles.
Are you negative to hit?
Yep.
Okay, so it's the same thing. It's
subtract 1 from the hit roll.
Okay. Excluding.
That's a bummer if they're in cover, because then they're getting both cover and the neg 1. Because cover is neg 1 to the ballistic skill, and this is neg 1 to the hit rolls. You'd be neg 2 to hit.
And then except close quarter from engage. So pistols and combat.
Pistols still the same.
Pistols and combat. Yeah, so literally the same. Transport capacity. Listed on the data sheet, so that's the same. Before the battle and the declare battle formation step, your unit can embark within a friendly transport. Okay. This does not say anything about having to have models in dedicated transports yet.
Yeah, I think that's going to be a separate section dedicated.
Probably.
Yeah, it's one of those things that I don't think is included here.
Where they know like the
embarking
force things. Every
model in the unit has to be within 3 inches of the transport. Not wholly within, but every model must be within 3, not just the unit. So you can't embark if you were set up on the table this turn, so you can't deep strike in and then embark in the same movement phase. You can't embark if you do.
Correct.
In the same phase, yeah.
Oh, it says same phase. Okay,
Yep.
so something that has.
They were not set up in the battlefield this turn, so I can't have an empty land right here and deep strike and embark.
Well, no,
Even though I end within 3 inches of it.
the unit was not set up on the battlefield this turn, so you can't. I can't deep strike Grey Knight interceptors, move to the shooting phase, shoot, move over to the transport, and then get inside it.
Somewhere it says that you can't use those abilities when you're set up on the table, the extra move abilities. So that might be a limit to that sort of thing.
Okay.
We'll have to find that in more clarity.
Okay.
But it seems like if you have abilities that allow you to move after shooting, you can't use those on the turn you come in from reserves.
But then also the Night Scythe. My Night Scythe that lets me pick a unit up at the end of the fight phase if they're not engaged and put it inside it. That would be the same turns for me when I was disembarking.
Yeah, but that it excludes that.
Right, but in this, that unit was not set up on the battlefield this turn. So
Yeah,
if I set it up with that transport shoot, now I'm not allowed to pick it up. It looks like that's what I'm seeing here.
Yeah, unless there's an exclusion for that in the rules of the Night Scythe, unless they they change that.
Correct. Right now, rules
because it used to be you can't embark and disembark in the same turn. So that got around that because it was not in the same phase because that was different phases.
You had something that you did that with too, didn't you? Votan?
Yeah, there's a strat where you could.
Okay.
Yeah. Disembarking, pretty much the same.
That was destroyed by removing those. Emergency disembark.
So disembark move has 3 different types of disembark. So
oh wow, that escalated quickly.
Yeah, there's 3 different ones. So rapid disembark is if the transport made a normal or ingress move in this phase and you select the mode. For rapid disembark, you can get out, but you can't charge. You can't make any additional moves. So it's after the transport moves. That's the same as it is now. They're just kind of codifying everything. So rapid disembark, if your transport made a normal or ingress move, you do this. Each model must follow the same rules as the transport. So if you ingress, you can disembark from the model, but you still have to be outside of 8 inches. It doesn't change that. You can't ingress a tank, then disembark and be closer than the 8-inch. Yeah, and then rapid disembark, you're just not able to declare a charge, which is the same as it is now. Tactical disembarks if the transport remains stationary or hasn't moved yet. You can get out. You still get your regular move. You can still advance a charge. And combat disembark is if basically you do this as if your vehicle's engaged and setting up is going to put you into engagement range, but it can put you into engagement range with things that that are surrounding the transport.
Tactical disembark after moving. So you can move after the vehicle moves? After moving, tactical. Select one unit to make a normal move or advanced move?
It's after disembarking, yeah.
Yeah, so you can move further?
It's the same as now. You get out before the vehicle moves, and then you can make a normal move. Tactical disembark is if the transport remains stationary or has not yet moved.
Okay.
It's weird because they have the 3 things and they spread it. Instead of just doing all the information for tactical here, and here, they do this. They spread it all out. Because GW sometimes doesn't understand how people process information. The only thing really is different is the combat disembark, which allows you to get out when you're.
Yeah, because the way that reads, like you said, the way that reads is that select your unit to make a normal or advanced move. It's like to me, it's saying after moving is that you disembark and you select your unit to make a normal move. Tactical disembark.
They're saying after doing the disembark move, not after the vehicle moves.
Tactical disembark. Otherwise, if that transport made a normal tactical disembark. Otherwise, why just throw otherwise in there? If that transport remains stationary or has not yet been selected to move this phase, if you can set up your unit as described below, you must select this mode. Otherwise, you must select this mode. Oh, okay. Okay, I get it. Okay, I see what you're saying. Because it's like you start with phase one of, all right, before, okay, I get it. So you're starting with phase one. You say, okay, I haven't moved the transport yet. We're going to do this. What are we doing? Okay, so we're going to rapid disembark because I ingressed. And then follow this.
Made a move. Yeah. If your transport moves and then you get out, then you can't charge. Same as it has been. If you get out before the transport moves, then you can do your regular movement and then charge if you want to. And the only real addition here is combat disembark, which is when you make hazardous rolls if you're setting up engaged with enemy units.
Okay.
Emergency disembark. This is if your transport model is destroyed. You make your hazard roll for each model. Then you set them up, and then you roll for the explosion. So they will, if the vehicle explodes, they can take damage from that now, because before they could not.
Oh, so you disembark first, then roll explosion.
Yep.
Okay.
And there's still battle shock when they get out. So bad news.
Do you get the 6-inch disembark on that or no? Like if you're surrounded?
No, just a regular.
Okay.
Oh yeah, I don't. That 6-inch disembark is not available anymore because now you have the other one where you disembark into engagement range.
Oh, okay. So would you have to test both then? So you would have to test the emergency disembark for the vehicle, and then you'd have to test for going into combat as well?
Probably.
Yeah, that's what it seems like.
You're going to take some mortals.
Yeah, that's what it seems like. I mean, it's one more one, so it's not too terrible, but it's still.
I don't think we need to go over this now because they didn't give all the stuff for list building. It's basically you have leader or support units that can attach to units.
Yep.
Because they don't really get into the muster army step here, so I don't think it's really necessary for us to get into this right now. But now the way a Space Marine captain, a Space Marine lieutenant can join the same squad, there's going to be a lot more of the ability to do that. More units are going to be able to be leaders or support attachment units. So, but like I said, they don't really get into the muster army step here, so we'll probably talk about that later.
And you can have a support. Can you have a support without? I know this was kind of speculation. Yeah, we won't get it too much, but I wonder if you can have a support without a leader, or do you have to have a leader to have the support? Or is attached to a unit to tone this character. Leader support. Before the battle, the leader is support. You can select one friendly bodyguard unit lead, and then leader that with bodyguard unit implementation. Although I would say a bodyguard unit can have one leader and one support. Yeah, no, it doesn't say. So you could just. I know some stuff like Cryptex. I feel like they're going to be support units. And there's definitely times where I don't want a leader. Actually, there's times where you can't have a leader too. So, okay. Attacking attached units, same deal.
Yeah.
We already know that. Same thing. Characters are the last to take damage.
Mm-hmm. And they just clarify here that, interestingly, because you do this and declare battle formations, or not declare battle, when you're mustering your armies, when you're building your list, you say what characters are attached to a unit. So if I'm attacking one of your Necron units and I kill it all the way down to the character, you can reanimate bodyguard units back onto there.
Really?
Yeah, because it's considered one unit.
Really? I'd seen some people talking about that. Attached unit contains a leader model with a psychic.
No, this is something different. This is not right here. But essentially, it's considered one unit.
I heard this and I was like, no. The last model.
Yeah, it affects battle shock too. So in 10th edition, if the character's left alive and he's full wounds, he doesn't take a battle shock test. But now, because the character is considered part of that unit, it's down to just the character. He's got to take battle shocks because the unit's below half strength.
Okay, so that makes sense because I mean he lost his entire unit, so there's that. But he gains he still keeps the abilities and attached units. Abilities and rules that affect or model in it apply to every model in the attached unit in the unit source. Well, is destroyed.
Yeah, this is just saying basically like let's say I've got my Watchmaster. It gives if he's leading a unit right now, it gives him advanced fallback, shoot and charge. And now if he's still alive just by himself, he still gets that rule. So basically, I'm just saying that all character units still get their rules even if they're the last one alive. So.
Wow. So I can bring back. I can bring back warriors and stuff. Okay. Placing units in strategic reserve, same as it was.
Different now. It just says you can put up to half of your points into reserve. It doesn't care about the number of units.
Okay.
And it doesn't say there's no difference between reserve and deep strike.
Good.
However, when we get the
silly.
mission deck, there might be rules in there because that's the way it was in 10th edition. Is that some of these things were different. So
does it call out the fact of units that start on the table, or is that probably mission deck thing like we've seen before? Units that start on the table, because I did see where it said units that don't arrive by after turn 3 are destroyed.
Yeah.
So yeah,
it says that somewhere here.
So it'll probably be the mission deck thing, but I think because that's that whole thing where you uppy downy units and stuff, or units that leave the table. You know what I'm talking about?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Yeah. Otherwise, it seems the same.
Oh yeah, reposition is what you're actually talking about. If something is picked up off the table, it's considered repositioned.
Oh, okay.
So they have a word for it now.
Well, the problem was with that for a while was that people were questioning units that start on the battlefield, like Hypercrypt and Grey Knights, and in some ways, and now that takes that away. Now it's just part of the rule book. So, what else we got? We're getting close to the end here, aren't we? Ingress move. That's just basically arriving from reserve.
Yep.
And then deep strike is a separate subsect ability.
Yeah, it doesn't really get into it here. I don't think deep strike is listed in this part of the rules.
No, but there is one important thing with deep strike now, which is annoying but makes sense. As Slade explained to me, now ingress and deep striking units must be deployed outside of 8 inches.
Mm-hmm.
So all of our templates are going to need to get modified, or we're going to need to start getting some 8-inch templates, because that's the thing. Now, the reason for it, first, I was like, wow, did we just change this rule just to change rules? As Lane brought up, it's keeping us at a 9-inch charge, because no matter what, that's still the factor, is that's still a 9-inch charge. What else we got? Surge moves.
Yeah, they just put surge moves into the rules. You don't want to do a surge move if you're not engaged and you're not battle shocked and you have not moved in this phase. And you have to move closer to a surge target if you can, which is the nearest enemy model. So if you can get into engagement range, you must.
And what's surge move? Just a normal move based on the numbers?
It depends. Usually it'll say a surge move. In the rules on the unit, it might say like 6 inches or D6 inches or D6 plus 2, whatever it might be. It doesn't say what the distance is here.
Okay, yeah.
Flying.
Flying hasn't changed. It's exactly the same as it always has been. Ha ha ha. Nope, just kidding.
Yeah, flying's pretty good. You don't have to. We don't have to do trigonometry or algebra anymore. Going over the terrain now, if you move over terrain or enemy monsters and vehicles, you just pay 2 inches to do that, which is pretty strong.
Yes, love that.
It's even stronger for things that have the hover keyword, because hover, you don't take the 2-inch penalty.
Yep, you just do it.
Aura abilities, you can be affected by more than one aura ability at a time, but you cannot. The same aura ability does not stack multiple times. Yep. Just defining some of this stuff here.
Yeah, some of those things.
Plunging fire. Actually relevant now, because they only have to be 3 inches off the ground. Before they said 6 inches, and all GW terrain is 5 inches off the ground. So you really had to be on the 3rd floor of something to get plunging fire before. Now you just have to be 3 inches off the ground. It gives you +1 to hit.
Yep. So our basic pieces of terrain that we're using, and as well, towering that is within 12 inches also gets plunging fire.
Yep.
And that's just +1. Is that +1 ballistic skill, I think it said?
That's +1 to hit.
BS characteristic.
Oh, it does. Okay.
Yeah.
It does improve the ballistic skill. So I guess it can stack with a +1 to hit somewhere.
Yep.
Fun.
Fun on a bun. Oh.
Aircraft. I don't know.
Lane, why don't you just give the abridged version of this? We may have to go into some more detail with this, but just go with the abridged version.
Still 8 people watching. Thanks for sticking with us, guys.
Yep.
Aircraft.
They're probably painting. They're painting right now.
Aircraft don't move on the table. They just uppy downy every turn. That's the rule.
Yeah.
They uppy downy. Place in strategic reserve. You have to be if it's aircraft, you have to be placed in strategic reserve. They're only eligible to make an ingress move. At the end of your opponent's turn, they up you downing for free. You can't charge them unless you have flying. They can't make a charge, I guess. Aircraft do not get punching fire.
Oh, they should for that. If they're within 12 inches, they should for that. I mean, you have it coming down here like doing a strafing run. That one, they should have given them that.
Yeah, they do have the plungiest of fire.
Really, they do. Oh, look, then we get a picture of all the planes that'll never see the table. And then is this just a quick reference sheet?
It just goes into abilities.
Yep. I think the only one that was there's a couple that were added. We can scroll through it real quick.
Yeah, anti is still the same. Blast is still the same.
And then you get +1 for
assault
5.
is this thing.
Cleave
is the same. Now blast and cleave is blast and melee, but both cleave and blast can have a number by them. So you could get blast 2 now when you're shooting, so you get 2 extra shots for every 5 models. Cleave is the same way. You get 1 extra. If it's cleave 1, you get 1 extra attack for every 5 models. It could be cleave 2, which you get 2 extra attacks for every 5 models. That would get kind of bonkers.
I like that. That's for a while. We kind of said that they needed a combat blast aspect.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we'll see. Sometimes they come up with a new rule and don't give it to anybody. So we know that a couple of the new orc characters have cleave on some of their weapons. So cool.
I think it's cool for some things that have like weird characters that have split profiles, like a Scorepack Lord probably could just relatively use cleave instead of that.
Close quarters is just pistols.
Yep.
It's the same thing. They're just calling it something different. Deep strike is just where you set up anywhere outside of 8 inches.
Yep, there it is. And then what else we got?
Deadly Demise. Yeah, then Deadly Demise is just state that after you make your disembark moves.
Devastating Wounds stayed the same. It's still last edition at the beginning we had this issue where Devastating Wounds would just carry through the whole unit. It's exactly the same. It doesn't carry through the whole unit. So if you do something that has 10 Devastating Wounds, Wraith Lord or Wraith Knight, it's going to do 10 to 1 model, and so everything else is dissipated. So per that hit, so that's good because that was toxic, very toxic.
Extra attack's the same. Firing deck is the same. Firing deck only works in the shooting phase. It does not work in Overwatch. So firing deck is only in the shooting phase.
There's something else about it. Oh, so if you have something that, and this is kind of called out in here too, as we mentioned, these things that are able to move in the shooting phase after they shoot. If you embark in the transport, you cannot then use the firing deck. So you can't double dip on that shooting. Models whose unit has already been selected to shoot, so they can't.
Yeah.
Yeah,
they excluded, and it's not. It's weapon by weapon. So if you have a model in there that's got 2 weapons, you get to pick one of his weapons to shoot with.
Yep.
Feel no pain's the same.
Hey. Indirect is indirect. Lethal is lethal. Ignore cover is ignore cover.
Yeah, here's where it says hover. Just if you use the take to the skies ability, if you fly, you do not subtract the 2 inches from the maximum distance. So hover is actually pretty good. You can just fly through stuff with no penalty. Yep. Corvus Blackstar is going to be good, guys.
There's quite a few things that have hover as well, too. Yeah. Demon Princes do not have hover. Greater Demons do not.
Lone Op.
Lone Op still 12 inches, 1 shot, same deal, single shot.
It does say that there could be Lone Op X, meaning Lone Op is 12 inches unless it says otherwise. Lone Op X means it could be Lone Op 6, could be Lone Op 18.
Okay. That's going to be interesting. So unless it's cannot be targeted by indirect weapons unless the, what was that? What did that say real quick? It's about the 12 inches on the indirect.
You can't target them with indirect unless you're within range.
Even if someone else can see them. Well, as part of a detached unit, this unit is not visible to enemy units unless they are within 12 inches of this unit, and it cannot be targeted by indirect weapons unless the attacking model is within 12 inches. So even if you're able to spot with another squad, you still can't hit that lone op dude with something outside of 12.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's the way it is now.
Okay. If this ability takes the form of Lone Operative X, unless it's part of an attached unit. It is not visible in X. Okay, that's cool. And indirect also suffers that X as well too. Okay. Pistol. Oh, pistol and close quarter are identical for all. Literally. Hey, look, the pistol and close quarter are identical. Nice.
Neat. Oh, Tom, you're still working on the artillery. Good job. Hold the line, Tom. I think the key to artillery is to have more of it. 1 or 2 artillery pieces will not do anything. You need to have all the artillery pieces. So keep building. Let's see here.
Talking about our welcome. Yes, we are going over the core rules. New armies. Lane, are you thinking about starting any new armies? You got plenty to work on right now.
I've already thought. So for the 11th edition, I will be doing the orcs. I have a bunch of orcs that I used to play in like 7th edition, maybe 8th edition, and I really haven't updated them for any of the new editions. Like all my orc boys are on little 25mm bases. So with the new edition coming out, I'm going to paint up all the orc stuff in the new kit and kind of expand my orcs so they're actually a playable army. So I will be doing orcs. And at some point, I'm going to start doing space wolves, but I'm really going to take my time with them. Usually when I'm painting, I'm focused on getting, a lot of stuff done because I have a lot of armies, but with the space wolves, I'm going to take a lot of time. It'll probably take me a year or so for them because I really want to step up and do some different weathering effects and conversions and freehand and all that kind of stuff. I think space wolves are good for that. So that'll take me a while. So,
and that's kind of where my world leaders is. They're kind of more that art project. And as far as it taking me a year or so to paint, I'm in the column of or so. So
a year plus.
The only new army that I would consider is just to get them on the channel would be possibly with some prize support working on Eldar. Because we don't really have them. Yeah, but that's kind of why I haven't started them. But there is just that factor of having them because Eldar get into a really weird column where they're either completely overpowered and broken and change all the rules, or they're terrible. So be kind of nice just to have them on hand for us to practice into. Don't think I'd play them competitively, but for us to practice into them, that could be a good thing. All right, precision's the same. Scout's the same. Correct.
Monocurone. I don't know who you are, Monocurone, but keep printing some terrain for the club. We appreciate it. I think we're getting more people into the game, so we might be more terrain.
Yep.
Thursday nights we're gonna get real busy up at North Coast. Precision. So precision now, when the target of the attacks is putting their groups together, the wounds are going to be allocated to. You can choose a character, a visible character, to make them the first group when they're being targeted. And that means, say you hand them 10 saves, and they roll a bunch of save dice. That means the initial fails are all going to go straight through on the character, and then the rest will go on to the unit. So let's see. If the target unit is one or more characters that are visible, the character still has to be visible as it is now. Until those attacks are resolved or until the character group is destroyed, whichever happens first, the character group is the current allocation group. I think someone before commented that all the attacks go to the character, but no, once the character is destroyed, then it goes on to the next allocation group. So the precision, it used to be you could like precision out multiple characters if you had a whole bunch of attacks, but now you really just get the attacking player just gets to pick one character to be the first in the allocation group. But again, as we see, when you roll your saves, you roll them all at once, and then you do the 1s and 2s and 3s first. So those are pretty much just going to ace a character right off the rip.
So the thing that's interesting is, like you said, okay, so it's the character group. So if you have 2 characters in a unit, they form a character group.
No, they're separate.
What if they have the same stats?
No, then they're the same.
Okay.
They probably won't. I imagine leader and support characters will not have the same defensive
most
profile.
likely, but in that case, you would actually. There might be some realm of that bodyguard having the exact same stats as a Space Marine sergeant, or maybe in a different thing, because it goes into the character group.
Yeah,
so
it does say you pick an allocation group that contains one of the visible characters. So.
Right.
Yeah. It's possible if they had 2 characters with identical defensive profiles that then the player who's being attacked will get to choose. But I imagine that's not going to be the case very often, where leader and support characters have the same save, same invuln, same feel no pains, and same number of
toughness,
wounds.
same wounds, everything.
Yeah. Because usually your leader is probably going to have more wounds than a support character. But we'll see. We'll see. It is possible. Scouts, you can't infiltrate and scout now.
Good.
I mean, good.
Good.
However, if you scout, you can start the unit in reserves, and then after both armies are deployed, then you can put them on the table. Not with infiltrate, but just in your deployment zone. But
it is in your deployment. Oh yeah, because you can't scout and infiltrate.
Yeah.
So you can scout. So you can just make them a late deploying unit.
Yeah. So if a scout unit's in reserves, you can set them up anywhere. This is in resolve pre-battle abilities. You can put them anywhere in your deployment zone.
Okay.
I don't know why you want to do that. It seems more likely you want to start them on the table and scout them either into cover or forward on the table, because then they can scout into out of your deployment zone. But if a shooting unit has scout, you might want to set them up that way, because then you can see where your opponent deploys.
And when is that before or after you determine who goes first?
I don't know.
Oh, it doesn't say it because that's in the
resolve pre-battle abilities. That is usually before you do the roll-off. If it is the case, then that'll be different. Scouts happen before the roll-off, but I'm just guessing, because they haven't shown that part of the setting up the game yet.
Your unit moves as described. Okay. Yeah, because that's what I was wondering, because we have some of those things that let you pick a unit up off the battlefield. So you can pick up that scout unit and then put it down afterwards, in that sense, if you put them in strategic after. Just thinking of options.
Painting 3 annihilation barges?
That's right.
What madness.
That's good. Good times. Good times.
So psychic weapons got...
I have 2 ready. I have 2 annihilation barges painted and ready.
Well, Robin of Pestilence is got to have 3 ready by the time we're done.
Because
Because if you stay with us the whole time, it's going to take us another 3 hours to get through all this. So you'll get them all done by then.
Now, we're almost there.
We can't go to sleep until we're done. So psychic weapons are cool. They ignore any ballistic skill or weapon skill modifiers.
Okay.
Or the hit rolls. So they ignore cover, which is very cool.
So they're all data sheet. They're all what's on the data sheet.
Yeah, so they ignore weapon skill and ballistic skill modifiers and hit roll modifiers. So that's cool. Psychic weapons now have a benefit, because basically previously anything that was psychic only had detriments. And that includes melee weapons too. Sometimes things are negative hit in melee.
Oh, okay, that's cool. Yeah, that's good.
That means a lot of your Grey Knight stuff will just ignore cover.
Yeah, ignore cover. Okay.
Ballistic skill or hit roll modifiers.
Yeah.
It'll ignore cover and your AP1 stuff. Then it'll actually...
Psi cannons ignoring cover. Yeah.
Yep.
And their AP1, yeah.
Rapid fire's the same. Oh, wait. Dedicate turn. No, never mind.
That was just for your scouts, I think.
Scouts, yeah.
Rapid fire is the same. Sustain's the same. Stealth,
you get the benefit of cover. So negative hit. Negative the ballistic skill.
Support is the new character type keyword.
Sustained is still sustained.
Super heavy walker.
Yeah, it used to only be for Imperial Knights, but now they kind of expanded it to make it a universal rule, so they'll probably apply it to other things. Torrent is just automatically hits. Twin linked rerolls wounds,
which are going to be more valuable for Overwatch now.
They talk about starting strength, which is all mostly the same.
And then that's it. Did we do it? Oh, I saw the QR code in that.
Yeah, it's just about...
What's revived?
Thank you.
Oh, it's just talking about if the character comes back to life where they need to be placed.
Yeah. We did it.
So now let's wrap this up on a good note. So right now, with that being seen, assuming that the points don't go too crazy in another direction, what army, give me your number 1 and number 2 pick of armies that you want to, because we're going to a tournament. We have a tournament coming up.
We have a tournament, a GT, a 2-day tournament on the 27th and 28th. That is 1 week after the new edition drops. It's going to be utter madness.
Yes. So we need to determine what we want to run. Obviously, points are going to heavily matter into this for some of the designs because some things will be just like, oh wow, that doesn't work. So, with that being said, top 2 picks and why that you think you might want to run at the GT. This may change. Subject to change.
Oh, it's going to change for sure.
Yes.
So I do actually have 2 things I've been thinking about. And because I don't really know how the force dispositions and all the different primary missions work, I can't really focus on that yet. So what I'm going to focus on is destroying everything I can. So there are 2 things. One is Blood Angels, fast melee infantry. But I really like my Lightning Claw Terminators. And I think this in Liberator or Rage Cursed, they're going to punch up into things like Satan and any kind of big demons, anything like that. They're going to punch into them really well. Stern Guard will be doing well. So it'll be Blood Angels with some big 10-man Stern Guard brick with the Sanguinary Priest and a captain on there, along with a 10-man squad of Terminators with probably a chaplain on there. Lightning Claw Terminators, basically Liberator or Rage Curse because they can get strength bonuses to take from strength 5 to strength 6 or 7, which is a huge breaking point on those Twin Link Lightning Claws. And then probably some, depending on how points shake out, of course, there's going to be some Sanguinary Guard and Death Company with jump packs. We'll see how those play out. I think it's going to be really good. Depends on how hard they nerf points on stuff like Sanguinary and Jump Pack Death Company. The other one is something I just thought of today, which I don't know for sure yet, but is a possibility. If you're still with us, if you're a friend of the channel, you watch me play a bunch of games, you know I love my Death Watch. You know I love my Librarius. If Death Watch is a 2 detachment point detachment, Black Spear Task Force. If Black Spear Task Force is a 2 DP detachment, and we know that Librarius is a 1 DP detachment, then I can run my 2 favorite things together. Well, I could do Death Watch in both Black Spear and Librarius Conclave, all smushed together at the same time. Fantastic. Obviously, I will do that if I can. I'm assuming Black Spear Task Force will be a 2 DP one just because all of its abilities really only affect Death Watch units, so it's kind of somewhat restricted. Of course, Death Watch is pretty good, so maybe they won't make it. Maybe they'll make it a 3 just so they can add some benefits, other detachments in there. But if I can do that, I'm definitely going to. DJ, what about you?
So initially, I originally thought World Eaters, combat. I'm a little concerned that because World Eaters are so combat heavy, they may be one of the ones that get hit really strict with the point increases. So, but I do love them. Do love how they're painted. I feel like, so it's either going to be World Eaters or potentially Tyranids right off rip. Tyranids are, so Games Workshop tends to not really know what to do with the Tyranids. And it's going to be kind of one of 2 things. Either the Tyranids are going to get pointed completely into oblivion and be not really feasible, or they're going to not know what to do with the toughness 3 models and some of that aspect, and they're going to be way undercosted and be super, super efficient into the current game. Now, obviously, as Lane mentioned, he's looking at Death Watch. I will, of course, be looking at the Necrons and seeing what they can do and seeing if there's any possibilities there, especially with the reanimations and such of it. But I can't, man, the Tyranids look really, really good. World Eaters are that combat prowess for the same thing like you talked about with Blood Angels.
Yeah, Tyranids are going to be bonkers if they don't make any changes to Shadows in the Warp. Because Tyranids, they can make your whole opponent's army just take a battle shock at neg 1 or neg 2. And then, of course, Tyranids, if they're in Synapse, they roll 3 dice for the battle shock to pass their battle shock test, meaning they're highly resistant to it, which is going to be really strong. It'll be swingy for sure. But man, if you make me take a ton of battle shocks and I just have to keep taking them until I pass, it's going to be rough.
Definitely. So, all right, let's
reject Space Marines, embrace Votan. Listen, I'll embrace Votan, but not at the exclusion of Space Marines. You guys even know me?
So, I think we've done. Psychic's not a detriment anymore. It does make me think about Grey Knights, like you mentioned, with the fact of ignoring all the ballistic skills now. Makes side cannons pretty decent.
Yeah, because they're AP1, right? Yeah, that's something that's really relevant. If they're not taking the cover neg to hit and their AP1 is going to
and then not being negative hit in combat with some of the psychic weapons too is kind of nice, especially with Grey Knights kind of being that weird profile for that. So that's pretty good. That's interesting. What do you think about the Titanic stuff? Like we now know that we didn't. I don't think this came up in here. You with your vehicles now, you don't have to be wholly within terrain. You just need to touch it, and as long then you can true line of sight through it. I don't think we really talk about that much. That was a big Titanic thing. So it does mean that some of the terrain we were concerned about, it's going to be easier to be able to at least shoot with those things and still get some line of sight with them. You are still going to be limited on spacing for those vehicles, but at least now it does give the big vehicles and gun vehicles kind of some hope. It does feel like Imperial Knights got some buffs though going, and when we talk about combat armies and things moving forward, and that armigers could be rough.
Yeah. Yeah, someone mentioned the Titanic detachment for Necrons. It's hilarious, giving them all an extra 6 inches of move, making them all 14-inch move, and with all the plunging fire and all the touching the train and being able to shoot through it. Because we played a game where you had the you played a game where you had the what was it, monolith, yeah, and you were having trouble getting around terrain to shoot things and trying not to touch things. So you're still going to have that issue where if you're touching terrain, people can see you to shoot through it, but now you'll at least have the opportunity to shoot through it. So it's worth some play.
And
new edition, it's going to be worth it to try a bunch of new stuff. So
always, yeah.
Yeah. Like some stuff that didn't work before may work now. So if you want to bring those monoliths, the vaults, and Bane blades, yeah. If you get the Imperial Guard Bane blades, I don't have a Bane blade for my guard yet, but if you have a Bane blade or a Bane blade chassis, try it.
He doesn't have one yet. Try to talk him into that.
They have so many things to buy.
Yeah, well, there's always so many things to buy, and there'll never be enough. And what's nice about this, what I like when we go into the new edition, now there's a lot of stuff on our shelves. There's a lot of stuff that hasn't seen play this edition. This is the opportunity for it to see play once again. We'll see this soon, hopefully. We'll see some stuff that sees play soon, hopefully. I don't really think there's anything on my list. Probably, I would say one of the units I could throw offhand is like my Tomb Blades. I have some really cool ones built up with the Gauze Blasters. Maybe we'll actually see some play with some of those weapons. That's kind of where that's it. I'd like to see AdMech do a little bit of work over there. AdMech ended up in a cycle where it's just like the Iron Strider and Balustraries are always at the forefront, and I honestly don't want to spend $600 some to get like 2 squads of them.
Mm-hmm.
So, but I think that's about it. Lane, you got any closing thoughts before we call it a night?
Well, it's been a long one, guys, but I'm glad people stuck with us. I wasn't sure how many people would actually show up for the live, and we had 8 to 10 people most of the time. So thanks so much for watching. If we didn't respond to your comments, apologize. There actually were a lot of them in a lot of times. So I really appreciate it. Thanks so much for watching and sticking with us, guys.
And we'll try and do this again sometime. Again, well, maybe where I don't have to restart the video 3 times. And if you miss any part of it, this will be going up immediately. Just going to throw it right up there as is, because that's how YouTube does it. And as always, thanks for watching, and we'll talk to you again soon.